And we are recording. Hey,
Cool.
Bree.
Hi, Chris. It's been a couple years.
Yeah, it has been a few years, hasn't it? I actually remember that conversation or project or whatever you want to call it, that little thing I was on when I went into Valley Org and you and other people were there, and I was trying to, I don't know, what was I trying to do again? What was I there doing?
You were trying to convince me to put Jasmine on the TTC. And Jasmine,
Yes.
if you recall, was unfortunate girl, very like you, very overweight, she was there because her mom ran the org, and so we all had to be near her because good old nepotism.
Right.
She couldn't do anything. She didn't know how to do anything. Put on the, trainer and thousands of dollars training her on something that she'll never be able to use. And I was like, no. And you were like, do I kill you? And I was like, okay,
right. Oh. That's right. Because I knew that you had policy behind you.
Yep.
You were backed up by L. Ron Hubbard policy, but I was the Sea Org member who had to go get somebody on the TTC in Valley. And this was, when we were in management, we would get these lists of names from the orgs of people.
Oh, no, I was in your position.
Yeah.
Years later, I got the same lists. I was told to do the same things. I did the same things.
Yep.
Many years later, the roles were reversed, and I was the one going into orgs and saying, put this person on the TTC. And they were like, no, off policy. And I was like, I'll kill you. They were like, okay, we'll do it.
All right, we'll do it. That's right. Because that's kind of what it comes down to, is it's like my orders are more important because that's the orders. That's command intention from...
That's right. Command intention is fuck you. So...
Right. Yeah, command intention is fuck you. So that's what we're going to do.
That's what it comes down to. We had conversations about it in the follow, too. Like, talked about it openly, and it was like, policy says that we don't have a choice, so I guess just fuck you, like, we'll fix it later.
That's right. We're going to do it.
And then
we'll pick it up later.
That's right.
Okay, well, hey guys, so we are here. Okay, so why don't you introduce yourself, Bree, because nobody really knows who you are, and then we'll pick this up here.
Okay, that's fair. So my name is Bree. I was a Scientologist, a second-generation Scientologist, ex-Scientologist. I trained staff at a regular local church when I was 15, and then when I was 20, I joined the Sea Org. All told, I spent 12 years of my life working for Scientology, and then a couple months ago, in October 2018, I ran away in the middle of the night and got on a plane. I flew halfway across the country to live with someone I had never met before in order to escape Scientology.
Right. And that was very brave. That was very foolhardy in some ways, but very, very brave in others,
I'm glad it worked out. It definitely could have turned out much worse.
Yes.
So yes, it's foolish, but it was also the better option.
Well, that's the thing. And I was just about to say, foolish is a strong word for this, because you were in a fairly untenable situation. You're in the destructive cult, you're in the Sea Org. So you were a Sea Org member.
Yes.
Okay.
I was the Sea Org.
Right. Important distinction, because that's
huge distinction. Huge.
That's right.
There are very few circumstances that I can think of where just a Scientologist or even a staff member would need to go away in order to escape. For this part, if you're not a Sea Org member and you want out, it's as simple as just slowly stopping going to events, stopping going on course, stopping picking up your phone. It's a little harder if you're a staff member, but even, you can more or less just resign from staff, as long as you're willing to say, like, I have a giant bill that I'm never going to pay. It's fairly easy to do this. As a Sea Org member, it's extremely difficult.
Exactly. so many questions, so many things to talk about, and I am purposefully doing this wide open right now. I've got no outline, no set of questions. I got nothing because I just want you. I want to see where this goes. How long were you in Scientology? Are you a second gen?
So technically, it's a little bit of a blurred line.
Yeah.
I was not born into Scientology, but my mom and my dad divorced when I was young. And my mom remarried and got into Scientology also when I was very young, when I was 7 or 8. So I was raised in Scientology. My mom had primary custody. So, I grew up with it. I didn't consider myself a Scientologist until I was like 14, 15. My dad was not a Scientologist. There was a lot of like family tension about it, but I went to a Scientology school. I went to an applied scholastic school. So at a certain point, most of my friends were then Scientologists and they were all second gen.
And where was this? Where was this all happening?
This was in California. This was in the San Fernando Valley. And
Okay.
I went to a school called Renaissance Academy, which I think still exists and operates somewhere, but I think it's much smaller than it was when I went there. When I went there, it was in the La Cañada area.
Okay. Yeah, I grew up in Pasadena.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so we have a lot of parallels actually in our story.
We do. It's really funny.
Yeah. Well, it's, it kind of speaks to the cultiness of, everybody's going to kind of go through a lot of the same stuff.
For sure.
So, okay, so you're a teen. How old are you now?
I'm 27.
Okay, good. So this is, 10 years, 15 years ago-ish.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, like about 15 years ago, something like that.
Okay. And how did you go from, okay, your mom's a Scientologist, your dad's not, public Scientologist, going to academy, Renaissance Academy. How does that turn into staff member and then Sea Org member?
So there were a couple of things. One was I got sent to the Freewinds when I was like 14, something like that. They used to do this thing called the Future OT Convention. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, was that Teen Week?
That was Teen Week.
Yes, I remember Teen Week. Yeah, oh yeah, that was big.
And it was like 2 weeks, and all these teenagers went, and aged like 12 to 18, and really it was just recruitment.
Exactly.
It was a whole thing designed to recruit teens into the Sea Org, and then if they didn't join, well, at least they went to a cruise ship and had fun. They're like, wow, this is what Scientology is all about. It's this cruise ship where we can go do this stuff, and it's amazing, which totally is what happened with me. I was like, yeah, this is great. Like, I want to do this all the time. Sure, I'll totally join. You know what I mean? If this is what it's about, it's awesome.
Right. And at that moment, what was your idea of what it was all about? What was the imagery? What were you told? What were you thinking?
Well, I was thinking, first of all, obviously, like being on a ship, I've always had a huge personal connection with the ocean. I grew up, my mom lived in the San Fernando Valley. My dad lived at Venice Beach. So I just grew up with the ocean, and that just personally is a huge thing for me that I love, just totally aside from anything else. But then there was, it's a huge, you're helping people, and it's a crusade, and you can have this group and everybody is there with like the same purpose, and everybody's no distractions. No one's gonna be trying to get you to do other stuff when all you want to do is help people. Like, that is a huge thing. I still want to help people. I still want to find a way to make the world a better place and make the world better for people on an individual level. It's just, it gets so grossly misrepresented in recruitment and to individual Scientologists of what it's all about. And you get told it's this thing that is there, to selflessly help others to the point of martyrdom for staff and Sea Org, but like, who's going to say no to that? If something is just represented to you as like, the only reason this exists is to help other people, like, wow, you don't want to do this? You're a fucking asshole.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that is a thing. I mean, that's how it's used. And it is.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of us, you know, we got. I mean, I think the right way to describe it is we got preyed on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was there 14 years old, big group of other people, other people my age, a little older than me, signing Sea Org contracts, getting, huge amounts of praise and, fanfare and love bombs and like, who wouldn't want to be part of that as like a teenager? Like, yeah, totally. Plus for where I was at, like, I was just about to graduate high school. I ended up graduating when I was 15. And especially in California with child labor laws, how they are there, like no one's going to hire a 15-year-old even if they have a high school diploma. You know what I mean? That's not a thing. And college is really looked at as like other fish. Meaning,
yeah, what does that mean?
So
other fish.
Yeah, it's looked at as other fish. I'm telling you. So other fish, it comes from a policy letter that was written by L. Ron Hubbard, which basically says, in paraphrasing, in order to have a successful church, in order to have a successful org, you need to have everybody working there without any other fish to fry, meaning no other things that are important to them in their life that they need to concentrate on. So, taken at face value, that's just like, oh yeah, I work at the org instead of playing video games, which is like, okay, yeah, like, sure, that's understandable. But the lengths that it gets taken to is like, well, you want to see your parents for Christmas? That's other fish. Oh, you want some time off so you can do your laundry? That's other fish.
Exactly. We used to joke about fish fries.
Yes.
We're going to go have a fish fry. They're going off to go do a fish fry because, at some barbecue because they're too busy to come to course. They're just off doing a fish fry,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, we also made that joke.
Yeah. Yeah, there are not a lot of jokes in Scientology. That's one of them. You can only riff on things that Hubbard actually said or did that he thought was funny. Then it's okay. Otherwise, you're a joker and degrader and a horrible psychotic person.
Yeah. God forbid you ever make a joke about anything, because you are in so much trouble if you joke about Scientology at all, ever. No laughing.
That's right. It's not a laughing matter. It's very serious. It's deadly serious activity,
Deadly serious activity.
Yeah.
Billions of years.
That's right. That's right. Because you gotta get rid of this guy. Gotta take out Xenu, man. This guy's gotta go.
Oh, I love that shirt. Did I show you my Xenu?
There we go. There we go. Yep. Oh, what does that say below that?
Can you see that?
Yeah. Xenu Warrior Princess. Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes. I can joke and degrade as much as I like now.
Exactly. If you wore this shirt into a Scientology church.
Oh, security guards would be called just because you were wearing that shirt. Like Chris, if you walked into an org, no matter what you were wearing, it doesn't matter what you're wearing.
Right.
They would still call security. But if a random person walked into an org wearing a shirt that said Xenu on it, oh my Lord.
Oh.
Just physically escorted from the premises.
That's right.
There would be a whole incident report written up about it.
That's right. Oh, I would love to see a Scientologist walk into an org with one of these things on. They'd be like, it would be perfect at an AO, everybody would just fucking lose their shit. You'd walk in there and be like, what? What's the problem? I just learned about this. This is great. Can I tell you about it?
Side note, when I was 15, just turned 16, and I had just joined staff, I got sent to Flag for training. My dad was not a Scientologist, and this was right around the time that the original South Park episode came out. And in order to get approved to train, here's something really dumb. Flag puts tons of pressure on class 5 orgs to send trainees, and you have to put together a huge packet of information, their entire life history, interrogation worksheets, huge amounts of information about them just to get them proved. And if they ever, had a suicidal thought one time in their life, they're not allowed to go to flag. And if they ever watched gay porn, they're not allowed to go to flag. And you know all this, but I'm sort of
Oh yeah, no, I did this for years, but yeah, please
yeah,
go ahead.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So then, and it's this huge exhaustive process. There's 6 or 7 different people at flag who have to read this whole chunky thing and sign off on it and say, yeah, we think this person will do well here, they can come. So then the org buys the plane ticket, the person gets all packed up, they go to flag, they get there, and then they sit and wait, sometimes for a week, sometimes for 2 weeks, because they have to, as soon as they arrive, get a new interrogation done, get a whole new chunky packet of information compiled, re-verify everything that was already sent just to make sure they're not going to be a threat to flag. So I was sent with the information in my packet that said, my dad's not a Scientologist, I have friends that are not Scientologists, my best friend's a lesbian, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, right? What? Your best friend is a lesbian? What?
I know, right?
No
God
way.
Forbid. Yeah.
Your best friend is a 1-1 anti-Scientology.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
I know.
Oh
I know.
God.
So I got there, right? And I sat and waited for probably like 4 days. And here's me. They took away my cell phone because they do that when you get there. Even if you're a staff member, not Sea Org, they still take away your cell phone. Lock it up somewhere so you can't contact the outside world without permission. And after like 4 days, they pull me into a room and they say, okay, good. So we went through all your files. And before you're actually going to be allowed to go in the course room or anything, you need to disconnect from your best friend. You can't ever talk to her again. And you need to handle your dad on, Scientology. And I was like, okay, so I started crying. And I will never forget this. Do you remember Anna Hajeri?
Oh God, yes. I worked with her for years.
Anna Hajeri was the one who did my handling, and I will never forget this. I'm sitting there.
Oh, she went to flag.
Screaming down my face. Yeah, I don't know why. I think she was doing an apprenticeship, but she's the one doing my handling. I'm sitting there. I had just turned 16. This was like a few weeks after my birthday. Tears streaming down my face, and she goes, "Oh, are you sad because you need to disconnect from your lesbian 1-1 best friend? Man up." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Oh wow." So I said yes, I disconnect and just, didn't talk to her while I was at flag. Totally lied. She's like, okay, great. Yeah, disconnected. Like, fine. So then they're like, good. So now you need to call your dad. So I call my dad and he's like, well, I just saw this episode of South Park and he told me all about it. And I was like, he told me the whole episode, right? And I was like, yeah, no, that's not a thing. Because I hadn't even done a purif. Like, I hadn't done the purification rundown. I had no auditing, like hardly at all. So of course I'm sitting here going like, that's insane. Like, no, that's cool that you saw it, but that's a total lie. So, and handled him and did the whole thing. And there was someone listening in on an extension, of course, because they need to make sure that they can trust me and, that I actually handled him. They had me sign a bond that I was never allowed to discuss, that episode of South Park with anyone or reveal anything that my dad had said in that phone conversation.
Was the person who was listening in, do you know if they were OT?
I have no idea.
Okay, I was just curious.
I have no clue.
Yeah.
This was
because I just want to point out what happens is the guys who are OT will tell you, well, that's not really what's on it. It's different than that. Yeah. And the people who haven't done it will tell you, well, that's just bullshit. That's just a bunch of lies. That's not really what's on OT3, even though they have no idea whatsoever. So no one in Scientology, whether they've done it or not, will actually verify to you, oh, yeah, no, it's all about Xenu. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Right. I know that. At the time, I was just like, that's weird. It's a South Park episode. Like, you can bond me, but like, okay.
Yep.
What's that going to do? It's out there, dude. Anyway.
And a bond meaning that you had to pay like what, $10,000 or something if you.
I think it was something like that. It's like I signed a document at age 16 saying, I promise that if I ever discuss this with anyone, I'll pay the church $10,000. Right. Which come and get it, guys. fucking come and get it. I want my divorce papers, by the way, while you're coming to get it.
Yep. Yeah, good times. So, okay, so this all goes down with you at Flag before you're even allowed on to the training.
Oh yeah, totally. And then it took about 2 weeks before they finally said, okay, you're allowed to go into the course room.
Right.
I was like, okay. And it's just, the shirts reminded me of that, but there's so much backstory that I had to tell in order for anybody to understand it.
Oh, totally. Oh, and I think most people watching this are going to understand that it's a complicated subject. There's a lot to it. You know, I've put a lot of interviews and information up about it because it is so complicated and kind of hard to get into when you get into the weeds on it, it gets a little weird.
Yeah.
You know, the broad strokes are fairly understandable. It's a destructive cult. It's bad for people. You know, they shouldn't be part of it.
Oh yeah, but then you start going, as soon as you question one thing, like, well, if it's so destructive, why were you part of it for so long? And then you're just off. You're off to the races because there's no simple answer.
Exactly. So why were you part of it?
Well, there's no simple answer. So partly I was raised in it. That's what my mom was doing. My mom joined staff at the Valley Org, which was in the San Fernando Valley. And she joined when I was like 8, something like that. My little brother was 6. So she would do her day job and then come home, make us dinner, and go to her night job at the org. If we ever really wanted to see her, we would just go to the org with her, or when we were really small. So my stepdad would go on course or he would go in session. A lot of the time when we were so small, we couldn't stay at home by ourselves. And of course, our parents, they couldn't afford childcare because all their money was going to the org. So we would just go to the org with our mom and hang out with the other staff kids, run around, you know.
I know. I grew up in Pasadena Mission. Exactly.
Yeah, so you know, it's exactly the same thing.
Yep.
You know, there's a certain expectation. Some Scientology families have that expectation, especially when the parents are on staff. There's an expectation that, you know, the kids will also join staff and like follow that family legacy. A lot of orgs are family based, and it's 2 or 3 just large families that make up most of the staff.
You noticed that too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, where else are they going to recruit from?
Yeah. Well, it's not commented on very often, but it's true that most of these organizations, the class 5 or the city level orgs, I call them, really have like 2 or 3 families that are keeping them afloat. And
yeah, absolutely.
You know, and then random people.
It's really sad too, because a lot of the time those families they're really a part of the legacy of the org, but they're also like heavily impoverished. They don't ever have personal time. They know that they're counted on to keep the orgs afloat, and so they never take time off. They spend all their money on the org. It sucks. My heart goes out to them. My heart fucking bleeds for them, because even though what they're doing is not what they think they're doing, and they are keeping a dangerous cult alive, they think they're helping people. And they're doing it because they are dedicated, good people. They're not doing it because they're evil. And like, I don't support Scientology, and it should be abolished. It should not have tax exempt status, and it should not be classified as a religion. But past attempts to make that known have gone into, you know, protesting and bomb threats and violence and harassment of, you know, religious workers there. And that also breaks my heart, because they are not bad people. There are very few city level workers that I know of that are bad people or ever try to make life uncomfortable for other people. Like, some of the best people I know are still Scientologists, and it makes me sad that I can't be friends with them anymore, and I can't have that connection with them anymore, because there's a lot of them that I absolutely would consider to be family. And because I decided that I needed to escape, I no longer get to have those connections, and that's part of the choice that I made. So
yeah, well, unfortunately, it wasn't really your choice totally, because the church enforces disconnection of members. You know, it's not like, I think a
Oh yeah,
lot
for
of
sure.
people in Scientology, they wouldn't give a shit if you left Scientology and were no longer part of it and weren't really doing services anymore. Yeah, they'd say something, but they wouldn't feel compelled to, get away from me. Oh my God. You know, it's the church who
Totally.
puts that bullshit
No,
there.
that's absolutely true. And I mean, we're definitely off in the weeds on this one, and we've completely diverted from your original question. But just as like a side note, I was talking to somebody about this today on Facebook. I don't know if I've been declared. Nobody has answered that question. Nobody will get in contact with me. Nobody will answer any questions. I'm still legally married to a Sea Org member, and I want the divorce papers. I can't get a hold of anybody to get divorce papers. So eventually that'll happen. Uh, but yeah, so I mean, technically, I don't know if I've been declared. Theoretically, I could just walk into the Twin Cities org tomorrow and be like, "Sup? Am I declared or what? Like, can I see my declare order?" And if they say no, you don't have a declare order on you, I'll just start calling people. Like, what are they going to do?
Well, there
Stir some
really
shit
isn't.
up.
I mean, you are free now to do whatever you want. That's the beauty of this. Now, remind everybody, when did you leave?
October 2018.
Okay, so you're fresh off the boat. I mean,
yes, I have just fallen off the turnip truck.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't put it that way, but I would say that you are newly out, and I have
Yes.
actually really taken my time putting this interview together because I wanted you to have the time to, get yourself settled.
I think you were the first person I contacted after I left, the first former Scientologist that I got in touch with about I think it was like 3 days after I got here, something like that. So, and you may have gone over this before in your show and in your podcast and everything, but you're not allowed to look at any anti-Scientology material when you're a Scientologist. You're not allowed to Google Scientology. You're not allowed to watch Leah's show. You're not allowed to watch any documentaries. You're not really even allowed to think about wanting to do those things. So it was a totally foreign concept to me. And it took me like a solid 3 or 4 days of being here across the country before I even realized that I could look at these things. So I realized it on my way to my first therapy appointment, which is another taboo. Yeah, you laugh.
Well, I only laugh because it's so good to me that you got out, and as quickly as you did, you were making a beeline for a therapist.
Yes.
And that's rare.
So
that's very, very rare.
I wouldn't have actually done it on my own. So jumping around a little bit, part of my escape story is that I met a stranger on Reddit. Parental advisory: do not try this at home. Listeners,
this is hilarious. Reddit was your exit site.
Reddit was my escape route. Yeah. So I met a stranger on Reddit, and within 48 hours, he had agreed to help me escape. He had been involved, I think, with Anonymous in the past or some sort of protest efforts against Scientology. So I was very lucky in that respect. But because it was so fast, he basically made stipulations of if I was going to come live with him, you must do these things. So my having a roof over my head depended on me going to therapy, getting a job, getting a car, like doing these basic things. So you add that to, 12 years of always working with the heat of God on you to get the next thing done and never stop. I just never really switched out of that mode. So I just hit the ground running and immediately did that. So, some of the credit does go to him for saying like, hey, you can come live with me as a stranger, but you need therapy. He wasn't wrong. So there you go.
No, and I know that it will be a contentious issue to amongst people who are watching this to think, oh my God, you can't force therapy on somebody. But in this case, it seems to have worked out just fine.
Yeah, it was fine. And what I ended up doing was I went to a women's health advocacy group, and I saw a counselor. She's She wasn't a licensed psychologist or therapist or anything like that. She was a volunteer who had completed the state mandated training and, just really the basic definition of a counselor or basic definition of a therapist, just somebody who I could go to and be like, here's what's going on with me. Like, give me some resources, give me some advice. So, it worked out really well and it was totally fine. But my point here is, so it was like 3-4 days after I first got here, I finally realized I was allowed to see what does the evil internet say about Scientology? Oh my God. So I went on Reddit, of course, went to the Scientology sub, and the top post on there is Chris's AMA, which was super fun. Actually, I read through the whole thing. It was great. It was very, very accurate, very well written.
Thank you.
Some of the questions are very funny that come up. It's really funny questions. And then I messaged you on Reddit because I had no other contact info. And I think, luckily for me, you were on Reddit at the time or something because you answered right away.
Yeah, it was actually very rare. I'm not on Reddit hardly ever. And it just so happened that I saw your message and I was like, what? So yeah.
Yeah, and you were like, can you verify your identity? And I was like, yes, I can verify. Because that's the next thing this is gonna pull is like message you and be like, hey, I'm a blown Sea Org member, which please tell me if they do that. I want to know. So bad. I've catch on.
I've not had anybody tell me that, but I have had ex-Sea Org contact me and then suddenly drop out of touch after things start going a certain direction. And I'm pretty sure those were plants. I think those were efforts to get me to, say things that that they think I shouldn't be, that I'll reveal secrets or something. And
your big secrets.
Yeah, exactly. Well, about me, about about Leah, about Mike, about guys they really care about, and
totally.
Whatever.
And we're small fry. We're little fish.
Pretty much, and I'm okay with that. I don't have some status thing anymore on Scientology. Now, let's talk about this blow of yours because this was actually pretty significant. This was last October. So why don't we go? We're just going to fast forward your story. You joined staff at Valley. You joined the Sea Org. We'll talk about some of that. But what led up to? What were you doing? Because you were in San Jose area, right?
So
what was happening?
Okay, so I'm trying to think how much of the backstory I can cut out and still have this make sense.
Take your time. Say whatever you want.
It really was a culmination of things because, in order to understand how and why I got to a point where getting on an airplane in the middle of the night with nothing except what I could carry in a carry-on and a backpack, leaving my husband, my mother, my stepfather, my little brother, all of my friends, literally all of my friends, my husband, all of my stuff in LA, all of it, in order to understand how I got to that point, there is a lot of backstory to that. It wasn't just one event. It wasn't a short thing. So, I am going to rewind. I know you tried to fast forward. I'm going to rewind.
Go right ahead.
Nice try. So I joined staff when I was 15. I worked as a class 5 staff member from age 15 to 20. During that time, I made no more than $50 a week. Average was $15 a week. And a lot of the time it was $0 a week. I was working between 60 and 80 hours a week. I was one of 4 or 5 people at the Valley Org who was on 40 hours or more. There was a total of maybe 30 people working there at the time. So, 25 people working 20 hours or less, and 5 of us keeping the place open most of the time for 0 money.
Right.
And a lot of that comes down to a guilt trip. When I was 17, I met the man that I ended up marrying. So I was in a relationship with him starting at age 17. He was 20 when we started dating and having sex, which like, I know there's a whole thing with Scientology and pedophilia and statutory rape and this whole thing. 17 for me is very borderline. I wouldn't consider it one of those things. Just, I know there's people who will be watching and listening and thinking of that. I wouldn't class it as that. I would definitely class it as the Scientology viewpoint of, big thetans and little bodies, and you're an adult no matter how old you are. Definitely bit me in the ass there, because we were engaged within 6 months. And, we stayed engaged until I was 20. So we were engaged for about 3 years. I, at that point, was miserable. I was not doing well on staff. I had friends from middle school and high school who were going to college, starting their own lives, living, even friends who had gone to Renaissance who were doing that. And I was stuck on staff, and I had another couple of years left to go on my contract. I was suicidal. I was borderline suicidal. I was absolutely fucking miserable. But of course, admitting to being suicidal in Scientology is just a death sentence, and you get interrogated about, what are all the bad things that you've done that made you feel that way? Why are you trying to escape? And on and on and on.
Had you seen that in action by this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there were a couple of people who were on staff at Valley, who had suicidal thoughts or even homosexual tendencies, and they were pretty rapidly kicked off staff, and they were scum, they were dirt. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Don't think about them. They're dead to you.
That's it, and that's exactly what happens in the Sea Org as well. You want to get out of the Sea Org, you put a suicide thing out there,
and you're gone.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
You literally are dead to them too. I mean, that's a good way of putting it.
Oh yeah, the other part of this is that I was very loyal. I was very loyal to the people I consider to be my group, my extended family. I had invested a lot of myself in this group, the staff, the public. I felt like I was failing and I was unhappy because of me. I felt like it was my fault. So I wasn't at a point where I was going, this isn't for me, it makes me unhappy. I was going, I'm doing something wrong because I'm unhappy. I'm obviously not doing enough because I'm unhappy. I need to do something else. I need to do more. I need to figure something out. I don't want to just be one of those ex-staff members. I don't want to just be an ex whatever. Because
there's a little stigma with that, right?
There's a total stigma.
Yeah.
And there's not a stigma so much with the public, but with staff and Sea Org members, there's absolutely a stigma with ex-staff. And you're looked at as like you abandoned your team, you gave up, how dare you? There is absolutely a stigma attached to that.
Yep. It's awkward being around as a former staff member until enough time passes that kind of chills, and it's usually a year or two.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially because I was in a relationship with the lead auditor, counselor, whatever you want to call it, that my fiance also worked there. And he had another 4 years on his contract. I only had a year and a half. So even if I had waited it out and then left, it's not like I could just disappear because we were engaged. I would still be stuck there.
Yep.
So instead I joined the Sea Org, because if I can't stand another year and a half of it, then obviously a billion years is just fine, right? Makes total sense.
I got to tell you, that is the exact place I was in when I joined the Sea Org too, as a staff member. 8 years.
And it's really hard to justify to other people why you did it, but it is like, you know what I mean when you're like, I joined the Sea Org to escape staff.
And because for me, I'm not putting this on you, but for me, it was also the responsibility button, because I happened to be on the solo course at the time, and I was reading Scientology 88008, which is a kind of a intense book in Scientology, and Hubbard talks very, very matter-of-factly about the fact that you have to take total responsibility for everything or you will end up with nothing. And I was
Yes.
like, oh my God, I gotta step up and fill these big boots. And so, that was why I did it. But again, a lot of parallel between us on the staff
For sure.
experience.
For sure. I mean, for me, there definitely was some of that in there. I've always been very like, I pack bond with everybody, so so everybody's my family, everybody's my group, they're my people. I can't let them down. I have to help them, I have to save them.
Yep.
So there's that. There was definitely the responsibility factor. I always wanted to help people, like, oh yeah, you can just help people. There was also the factor of like, hey, you are basically already working Sea Org hours and you are getting paid less than a Sea Org member. Why don't you just join the Sea Org, you'll get paid more, you won't have to buy your own food, you won't have to buy your own uniform, you won't have to pay rent, you won't need a car, just like keep doing what you're doing except get paid more. Like, okay, yeah, sure,
I kind of a no-brainer, right? Of course that's what I should do.
Exactly.
Ooh.
So yeah. So I joined the Sea Org. When you first join the Sea Org, you do basically a little boot camp, which I don't know if you've told your viewers about.
We've talked about the EPF, yeah.
Okay, good. So you got through the EPF. My fiance followed me into the Sea Org. We got married legally the day that I routed in. Just went and signed the paperwork and everything.
Oh, so you didn't go have a ceremony and a feast and a reception and a honeymoon. You just went and signed some papers. Got a honeymoon.
No. We went to the courthouse on a Thursday morning. Have you told them about Thursday before too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So but you go ahead and explain it. What is Thursday?
So for whatever arbitrary reason, in Scientology, the week begins and ends at 2 p.m. on Thursday. Not Monday morning, not Friday night, not Sunday, Thursday at 2. That's when the end of the week is and the beginning of the next week is. So I had to route onto the EPF. I had to start in the Sea Org before Thursday at 2. So Thursday morning at like 8 a.m., we get up, we go to the courthouse in Van Nuys, very scenic, lots of dumpsters, lots of homeless people. Signed the papers. My mom was an ordained minister, so she signed with us. I had a friend witness. Very romantic, out in the alleyway.
Wow.
And then he got in his truck and went to the org because he had to go deliver a session. And I got in my mom's car and went and started the EPF. And that was how I got married. To be fair, we did have a wedding a couple months later, like an official one. I got a thrift store dress for about $25. My parents and my in-laws got the food, wedding cake and cracker trays and stuff from Ralph's. And, it was great. It was a thing.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear about all that.
It's fine. It's going to end in divorce. So no big investment there.
Fair enough. It'll end as it began.
In a courthouse in Van Nuys.
Yeah. Let's just get this out of the way right now. What is your attitude about or towards your ex, or I should say still your husband in terms of legally, but
Yeah. So here's my attitude is we are very different people. That's my attitude. I don't dislike him. I don't hate him. I don't have any ill feelings toward him. It was a relationship that started when we were very young, and it kept going longer than it should have because of Scientology, because we were on staff and we worked together. And, I decided to join the Sea Org. I signed a contract. I came home and told him. We had a meltdown. He wanted kids and I didn't. And that meltdown lasted for about 2 days. And he stayed firm that he wanted kids, and I stayed firm that I wanted to join the Sea Org. So at the end of that, I gave him back the engagement ring, and I called the thing off, and I said, okay, I wish you the best. I'm going to join the Sea Org with or without you, so peace out. And that was also at a point in the relationship where you know, we were out of the honeymoon period, and there were red flags and there were issues that I had. Nothing terrible. Like, he's not, I do want to make it really clear, he is a very good person. He's a good guy. He's just a personality mismatch. He's just not the right guy for me. And so there were things that had started to show, and overall at that point I was like, you know, I'm glad I have the excuse to break it off. I'm glad that there's a reason to break up. He came back to me a day or two later crying, said, you know, he had time to think about it, and thank you for making me, you know, confront this. I am going to join the Sea Org. It is what I need to do. I'll join with or without you. I would rather join with you. I would like to, you know, I'd like the engagement to be back on. I'd like you to be my wife. I'd like to join with you. But if you say no, I will still join the Sea Org. I'll just wait until my contract is up at Valley Org, and then I'll join in 4 years. So I was like, wow, that's fucking romantic. So yeah, sure. Like, let's get married. What am I going to say to that? You know what I mean? That's romantic as shit. That's some rom-com bullshit right there.
He made
you know?
he made the grand gesture.
Yeah, he made the grand gesture, and I was 20. Like, what was I gonna do?
Right.
I'm saying that like I'm so much older now, but come on, like,
yeah.
You know what I mean, right?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, young and foolish, and away we go. Here we are, you know.
Exactly. So, and then, you know, so
how did they
married.
get him out of the org? Because he still had 4 years on his contract.
Yeah, and I still had a year and a half on mine.
And did they just rip and run, or did you guys get replaced?
We technically got replaced. I got replaced with somebody who was an existing staff member.
In other words, you didn't get replaced.
Yeah, it was a rip and run. And then for him, they had somebody who wanted to join the Sea Org but had done LSD, and she was a class 6, so she replaced him. Turns out she was a really shitty auditor and was like always getting retrains and being told she had to like redo things because she didn't know what she was doing. And then she was like, just kidding, I haven't actually taken LSD. So then they ripped her off in the end.
Oh, I
know, right?
She went into Sea Org too?
Yeah, she's still in. She's still at ASHO.
Fucking Sea Org, man. The only reason I shake my head is because I you know, you're supposed to, when you have somebody move up from a class 5 org to the Sea Org, you're supposed to replace them so that the org doesn't lose out. And yet what happens in Scientology over and over and over again is these orgs get fucked over. And people, and that's why we call it rip and run. You rip the staff member and you run. And then before the org can say anything, and then they're just they literally, everybody shows up one day and the guy just ain't there. And you're like, where'd he go? He's in LA.
There's nothing you can do about it.
And there's
absolutely nothing.
Nothing you can do about it. And the orgs hate the Sea Org for this.
Oh God, they hate it so much. It was the worst.
I spent months trying to repair the bad image of the Sea Org by doing.
Oh yeah, and all it takes is just takes one person, one lazy dude who's like, I don't want to recruit anybody, rip and run, and you're fucked. You're just fucked. Like, you can't do anything. The org shrinks.
Yep.
And we're still mad about this. You can probably hear it.
Like, it's so funny.
Hear it in your voice, Chris. I don't give a shit about Scientology, but I'm so mad about rip and run.
It's just because it's just such an injustice to these poor people who are working their asses off.
It's so unfair. Yeah, makes me crazy. So
anyway, carry on.
So that's my attitude towards him. Is we were mismatched. We got married too young. Circumstances kind of forced us together. He was always sort of in a position of being the golden child once we were in the Sea Org, because he's very highly trained. He's very good at what he does for, you know, a given value of good and whatever. But within those parameters, he's like a top expert. He definitely has a reputation of being someone who is very highly excellent and prized. So there's a lot of effort made to make sure that he stays more or less happy. Not that anybody ever gives him time off or lets him sleep enough hours or anything like that, but you know, there definitely have been efforts made to make sure that he stays happy enough to remain in the Sea Org because he's very valuable to them. So
Yeah, not all Sea Org members are the same as all other Sea Org members.
That's right. You have Sea Org members who their entire job is to clean things, clean the bathrooms and clean and whatever, and they're pretty easily replaceable. And then you have Sea Org members who get, hundreds of thousands of dollars of training and several years of training and, a lot of investment of time and money into them. And so there's a bigger effort to keep those people in the same jobs, whereas lower level people, if a bathroom cleaner comes in and says, hey, I'm pregnant, or hey, I'm suicidal, or hey, I'm gay, they'll be like, great, there's the door. If somebody who's in a higher position, and we are talking about people who have had like a great time investment in terms of training. We're also talking about people who are more executive, maybe not more trained, but higher level in terms of the administrative functions. There's a bigger effort made to keep them within the Sea Org because there's valuable experience there. There's loyalty there that is not necessarily going to be found with the cook or, a lower level Sea Org member.
Right.
So,
so he's highly trained. He gets even more highly trained.
Yes. And he had a very good reputation for just being extremely good at what he does. So that's him. Meanwhile, I ended up climbing the ranks administratively. I wasn't super high. I never got super high up or anything, but I was more or less the counterpart to what Chris used to do. I don't know how much you've told them about that.
We'll just say real quickly. I've made it known a number of times. I was overseeing the delivery of all of Dianetics and Scientology services across the Western United States. So
right. So
you worked in the same organization as I did, right?
Yes, I worked in the same organization, the same level that you did. Right after you left, actually, like maybe a year after you left, and so I was in charge of the quality of delivery of Dianetics and Scientology. You were in charge of the actual, technical counseling and classes. I was in charge of making sure that they were being delivered up to standards.
Right. You were the quality control person.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I've explained it. Because there's the technical division, which is Division 4. The next one over is Division 5, and it's called qualifications. But it might as well be called quality control. Same function.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So I was in charge of quality control for the Western United States, everything west of the Mississippi.
And you worked with my ex-wife.
I did. I was actually really good friends with her. Sunny was one of my really good friends. I was at her second wedding to Liam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's remarried since I left.
Yes.
Just like I have.
Exactly. And whatever. I'm glad you're both happy. I'm glad she's happy.
Exactly. So am I. As happy as she can be in that context, because I know she's, I doubt that things have changed over the last 8 years where she wasn't miserable most of the time. But
no, I mean, she definitely was still miserable when she worked at that level. She got transferred to another job that she liked a little bit more, but she was still pretty miserable. I mean, that's the thing with being in the Sea Org is like, it's a contest of who can be more miserable. You know what I mean? If you're working in the Sea Org and you're like, I love my job, everything's amazing, someone's going to come along and be like, well, then you're not working hard enough.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Don't advertise. It's literally like a defense mechanism. Don't advertise the fact that something is good or that you're happy, because somebody will come along inevitably and make you miserable because they saw that you were too happy. Because if you're too happy, that just means you're not confronting what's happening.
That's a really good point you're making right now.
If you're ever happy about something or like talking something up or saying how something is good, especially in a meeting, you will get ground to dust. It is a defense mechanism to be miserable all the time, like actively miserable. You want to make sure that the higher up people see that you're unhappy, because if they don't see that you're unhappy, they will come make you unhappy actively.
That's right. Because it cannot be that you could be happily producing on your post, because look at the state of the world. Look at the state of Scientology. Look at the money that's in this week. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this other thing.
That's right.
Everything's always a problem.
Yeah, if you're happy, it just means that you're not confronting the actual problems of your post. If you're excited about something like, let's say we doubled the stats this week. Don't say we doubled the stats. The second you say that, you're toast, because that just means you're complacent and you're happy about the level that you got to. I love that word, right, Chris?
Oh my God.
The complacency.
Oh God, right? I forgot about that word. Yes. It's a weapon. It's a weaponized word in Scientology.
It really is.
I actually forgot about that. Yeah, no, you're complacent. You're reasonable. That's
right.
You're not with the program. You got other fish.
Yeah. So it's
because I was happy about my job.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a defense mechanism that you walk around all the time unhappy.
Yep.
And do not walk around there smiling unless you're in a public area where public can see you. If you walk around in a public area and you're not smiling, now you're in trouble because you're out PR.
Right.
So you gotta perfect the mask, As soon as you walk out the door, you're smiling, and as soon as you walk back in, the smile's gone.
You gotta scowl.
That's right.
Scowling is actually the preferred facial. God damn, this is really funny because
it's bringing it back, right?
Forgotten all about this. This was something I eschewed right away when I got out, because I'm generally a fairly happy person, but God damn.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, this is
bringing it back. I had forgotten this too, but now that we're talking about it, because I used to talk to Sunny about this all the time, and then they would threaten, we'll just repost you in the galley. You can wash dishes for the rest of your life until you die of old age. And it's like, please fucking repost me in the galley. Please. I remember Chris O'Neill walked off post one time and went to the galley and just started washing dishes. And the highest up of the highest ups, the chief boss on the base, Chantel, had to go bring him back out of the galley and put him back on post, because who the fuck are they going to replace him with?
And this, of course, is Chris O'Neill. He was a very, very good friend of mine. Worked side by side with Sunny for years and years and years. This was a person who I would say I was in the trenches with, so to speak.
Absolutely.
I know he hates my guts now because I was one of those deserters and horrible person, Sunny. But
sure, he hates me too, which just fucking pains me to no end because he was one of my best friends. But
me too. He is the guy I've been watching to see if he ever gets out. I hope he does. I hope more than anyone. Yeah. I hope he gets out. Me too.
I really do, because he is such a fucking good guy.
Yep.
And he is the definition of a martyr.
Exactly.
He just lays down in the mud so everyone else can get across.
Exactly. And
he does not deserve that.
He doesn't deserve it at all, because he's actually a really cool, really nice guy. That's the tragedy about the Sea Org and about Scientology, is there are the vast majority of people in these groups, even in the Sea Org, are good, solid people. And they have good, they have decent moral values. They have decent world outlooks. They're just trying to help people. And they are just being destroyed in this group. And they take it because they think, just like we used to, that this is the cost you have to pay, this price you have to pay for saving the planet.
Yeah, I mean, there's even policy letters and bulletins and different things that back it up, that talk about like blood, sweat, and tears, and you're in the trenches, and war analogies, and this, that, and the other thing, to really make it like, oh yeah, of course we're suffering. Like he says we're supposed to be suffering a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, it's a war. Of course there's going to be some suffering. Of course there's going to be
it's win or die in the attempt, right? I mean, it's deadly serious activity. Every man, woman, and child depends on what you do here and now, with and in Scientology.
That's right. Do it or perish.
A game. This is a deadly serious activity. I mean, all this crap that we got fed.
Totally. And it just gets indoctrinated into you. Yeah. So okay. I was telling a story.
No, I'm just throwing you off on purpose every other moment. So you were talking about how you got in the Sea Org, you guys did the marriage, and then what happened?
So we got married.
Yep.
My husband immediately got sent to Flag for training. He was there for about 2 years. I got sent out to a city level org once again, and I was there for about a year. During that time, I was miserable. I again was suicidal. I was having suicidal ideation, and I went to
what org was this? Where were you out?
Orange County. I was in Orange County. So I got sent out to be a network there.
Oh, okay. So you were one of the Sea Org members who actually got posted. You weren't on a mission. Your job was at that org.
That's right. And so to go from being a miserable staff member, lower level at a city org, into the Sea Org, to escape Class 5, to escape the city orgs, and immediately within a couple of months get thrown back out into it was awful.
Right.
So you start with that, and then
but wait a minute, wasn't it so much better and different because you were now at the ideal org in Orange County? I mean, come on, right?
No,
this was so much better, wasn't it, than Valley?
I mean, I know you're being facetious.
Who, me?
Yes. No, it was terrible. It was awful. So it was worse because it was it was still a handful of staff members. It was this grossly inflated figure of, here we have 150 staff. But no, we fucking don't. Mark and Stephanie Flad, who were just on that last episode, were part of the Orange County org staff opening thing. I remember them. I know them. I don't know if they remember me at all. I definitely had different hair at the time. But they were lovely people. They were super sweet. They lasted a couple days and then they left because they had like 4 kids and they lived an hour and a half away. And somebody got them to sign contracts saying that they'd be there all the time. It's a lie. It's a fucking lie. So you have this org open up. It has 150 staff. Now it has like 30 or 40 that end up staying after the first couple of months. But you're expected to then produce these huge, grandiose figures of, gross income and completions and auditing hours, and you don't have the personnel for that. It's a total losing proposition. When you're not an ideal org, nobody expects shit from you.
Right. Yeah, nobody's paying a whole lot of attention to Albuquerque or Hawaii.
Nobody gives a fuck about Hawaii except when they have to pay their rent again.
Right. Which I've talked about many times. It's that cyclic, sort of disgusting, dwindling spiral of nonsense that goes on with these orgs.
Exactly, which is so fucked up because there's more than enough money at Ant Reserves to pay for all of the rents or buy the buildings outright or just end this stupid nonsense if that's actually what we were trying to do.
Exactly.
But it's not. So
exactly. Yeah, it becomes very, very clear after about the 4th or 5th one of these ideal orgs that opens up, and the same pattern we've described over and over again continues to occur, that you realize that you're dealing with a management level problem from the very, very top. And this is, and this is not about expanding Scientology. There's no way it could be, because it's being done in such a grossly incompetent way that there's some other game being played here.
That's right. And I want to take this moment to make it really clear, because I guarantee you Osa is going to watch this video. Hi, Karen Westling.
Hi, Karen. Remember me?
Hi. Oh, she's I guarantee you she hates my fucking guts at this point. So if a statement ever goes out or a packet of dead agent materials ever gets made about me or you or anybody else in relation to this, it's going to say, well, Orange County org, that grand opened in 2012. Things are different now. That was 5 years ago. There's been a whole reorganization and overhaul in management. All of those things are true. However, the problem is that the working conditions were so completely shitty and awful that the small changes that did get made, which improved things on a minute level, get blown out of proportion. So it's like, look, everything's fixed. Everything's not fixed. It is still a problem. There are still a lot of the same problems, but there have been tweaks and changes made so that in comparison, it's like, oh yeah, we fixed it all. We didn't fix it all. We fixed, 1% of the problem. They fixed a small amount.
So what do you mean by that? What kind of changes have been made?
So when Orange County grand opened, there was a recruitment mission that went in. They recruited up to quote unquote 150 staff, and then they left. And then a whole bunch of those people disappeared. They recruited a bunch of people who had never done Scientology before. They were non-Scientologists. They were, whatever. They showed up for a week. They were like, oh, this paycheck sucks. And then they left. The pay system at that time was, I think 25% of the gross income or 15% of the gross income plus, certain other percentages and whatever. They did change the pay system to 50% of the gross income within the past couple of years, different things like that to make it, more livable as a staff member. Well, that's fine. But if you are paying your staff 50% of the gross income, first of all, you end up getting pegged at a certain amount of staff being able to work there before, again, it's spread too thin. And then you also have minimums that you have to make with gross income, or else you can't pay your bills because 50% of that automatically goes to the staff. It creates other problems, but on the surface, it's better.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's why I was curious about it, because I know the changes are just more incompetence. I'm just wondering, how does it appear that Scientologists are taking this? I'm getting so much more money now.
Yeah, I mean, as a staff member, that is a concern.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, of course, but how much more money are we talking about?
I mean, we're talking in Mountain View org, Silicon Valley org. When I left, the lowest level staff member was averaging like $250 a week.
Okay, and I mean, that's still not anywhere close to a living wage.
Not anywhere close to a living wage.
What's the max? What is it maxing out at?
It was maxing out at like $1,300 a week.
And that is a significant difference. So that's for the head of the organization, right? It's like the executive director.
For the head of the organization. That's for maybe $800-900 a week for executive secretaries, which is right under the head of the organization. And then they did a whole bonus system for auditors.
Okay.
If an auditor audits, X amount of hours a week, they get this bonus. And that was where I saw the biggest paychecks was with the auditors, because there were certain auditors who just didn't do anything else, and they were auditing, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And so they would go home with $1,200, $1,300, $1,400.
And that's closer to an actual living wage now. Now we're actually talking about something.
That's right. But in order to make that living wage, they had to physically be in the org 7 days a week.
Right.
8 hours a day.
Right.
That's what that took.
Right. So, you can make a living wage, but this is the only living you'll be making.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to make it clear, so Orange County org opened, dwindled down very rapidly. There will be people who say, if anybody bothers to say anything about this, that, it's all changed now. It hasn't all changed now. Silicon Valley org did essentially the same thing. When they grand opened, there were dozens of names on that list of staff members that were not even in the country. There were people who did not attend the grand opening who were on the list of staff members. There are still names on the list of staff members that get reported up every week. People who are not in the country, people who are not on staff, people who cannot be on staff, people who were never on staff. Yes, they signed a contract. That is the only thing that they have in common with a staff member. Yes, they signed the contract, but as you get closer to a grand opening date and you don't have any leeway as a recruiter, you don't have any give with that opening date, and you must get it up to a certain number, inevitably you go unusual, you do random things, you do whatever you can to get that number on that paper as high as you can. And then as soon as grand opening happens, a lot of the recruiters get pulled out. So they go to other orgs, and whatever names are on that paper that they were responsible for never land.
Right.
What you have at grand opening is what you're stuck with. And, Mountain View, Silicon Valley org, yes, it's in a better position than Orange County. And it's in a better position than Orange County was at grand opening. But it doesn't have 200 staff. It doesn't have 150 staff. It has probably 50 or 60 staff, and a lot of them are doubled up, meaning they work 7 days a week. They work, 10 hours a day. They do, for the most part, go in session or go on course at some point during that time.
So they're not now one of the things about opening up these new orgs is that they split them into the day and the foundation, right?
That's right. And one of the ways that they beef up the crew list is they have the same person sign 2 separate contracts.
Right.
And they call it day foundationing. We're going to day foundation him. It's a verb.
See, that's all new. That's all after I left. We didn't do that shit when I was.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So you day foundation them. They count as 2 numbers on the staff number. And that's how you get a lot of that stat up. That's how, you only have to recruit 40 actual bodies. If you get them all to be there full time, then you've got 80 staff.
Right.
See, then it starts becoming doable in that little time frame you've been given.
So there's obviously the recurring pattern here. Staff, Sea Org, ideal orgs. I mean, we just see this recurring pattern of deception, of smoke and mirrors. I mean, Mark Headley talked about it as it's all just a show. That's all right. Of Scientology. It's just a show. They're just, everything that's done is done to present this image, even internally.
That's right. Well, especially internally, because if Sea Org members as a whole, or staff members as a whole, or any significant portion of them suddenly started doubting what they were doing, they would leave because they're not bad people.
Right.
If I get across one point with this, that's what I want to get across, is they are good people and they deserve help. And more than almost anyone I've ever met, these are people who dedicated their lives to what they think is doing nothing but helping other people. They sacrifice their vacation time, they sacrifice their retirement, they sacrifice their family, they sacrifice their friendships. They literally sacrifice everything for this. And it's not because they're, bigots or zealots or anything else. It's literally because they have huge squishy hearts and they just want to help. And that's why they stay with Scientology through all of that pain, like physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain, all of it. They stay because of that carrot. And the carrot is not personal gain or wealth or anything that they would ever get for themselves. That carrot is that when they die, they can say they did something meaningful with their life to help others.
Right.
And that's why it breaks my fucking heart when people, stay in it their whole lives, or when people go after the individual staff members or Sea Org members, or, granted, there are certain people who absolutely deserve to be harassed on the street, but most of them do not.
No. And I've always made a point of saying that kind of protest activity is really counterproductive. You're not helping anybody by yelling at Scientologists on the street or screaming at them about how evil they are. They're not, it's going right over their heads. They're not getting it. They don't know what you know. Everybody out in the real world knows more about Scientology than Scientologists do.
That's right. That's right. And it just reinforces the indoctrination that everyone out in the real world is out to get you. And it is a bad place out there. And you should just stay with Scientology because at least we're not going to, I was going to say at least we're not going to yell at you, but that's a lie. We are going to yell at you.
But it's good people yelling at you. It's not SP yelling at you.
That's right. It just reinforces the belief that the suppressives are out there and they're out to get you.
That's right.
So that is and it's hard. It's really hard to say, how do you get someone out of Scientology? How do you get someone to realize that? Because I don't know. What it took for me was, I haven't even finished that story.
I'm going to direct. Yeah, let's get back onto it.
So 2012, brand new Sea Org member, 20 years old, got sent out to work in the org. After a couple of months, 2-3 months, order came down. You're not going to work in the org anymore. You're going to stay there, but you're going to be a missionary. So I had been this is for you, Chris. I'd been posted as the LRH comm,
Yeah.
and so there was an order that was like LRH comms have to be Sea Org. Then after a couple months, it was like, just kidding, somebody was wrong. They misinterpreted that policy letter. It's okay for LRH comms to not to be Sea Org. Therefore, you have to recruit 2 LRH comms who are not Sea Org and put them on post. But at the same time, one of the original missionaries decided he was going to leave the Sea Org. So he got taken off the mission, and I got put on the mission.
Okay. All right. I get it.
Yeah. So
yeah, and that's been a thing over the years, is which of those network postings, this is just a little minutia of Scientology organization, but just for folks out there who keep up with this stuff, it's gone back and forth over the years many times as to whether they should or shouldn't be Sea Org, which of the network posts, because there's about 5 or 6 of them altogether, should be Sea Org or not, doesn't have to be Sea Org. The LRH communicator is a post that is supposed to enforce L. Ron Hubbard's policies and directives in the organization, and it is a network post, so it's not a regular Joe staff member. It's somebody who kind of oversees the organization. And that's gone back and forth as to whether it's supposed to be a Sea Org member. I guess right now it's not Sea Org, but it's been Sea Org in the past. The only one that pretty much remains steady Eddie, supposed to be Sea Org no matter what, is a different post, network post, called the Flag Representative.
Yeah, but even then, back in the 90s or whatever, there was class 5 flag reps.
That's right. But that's been the one that's been mostly stuck to as Sea Org.
Yeah.
The other ones get these weird interpretations that come down every now and again, and so
roll the dice.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, so then I became a missionary, and that was terrible. That was awful. I was in charge of recruitment, and I was like, how am I supposed to recruit anybody to come do this thing that I hated doing for 5 years? That's so disingenuous. I can't do that, but I was made to do it and forced to do it, and made to do it and forced to do it, and I couldn't do it, and I failed and I failed and I failed. So again, I became suicidal, and I was thinking about, I mean, this is how insidious it is. I was sitting there 20 years old. My husband is in Florida, my brand new husband, who, I just got married, can't see him, talk to him once or twice a week for a couple minutes a day. And I'm sitting there going, well, what if I walk into traffic? Then it'll look like an accident. Maybe it'll just break my leg and send me to the hospital, and I won't have to go back to work, and I can go do something else. What if I was like, well, maybe I can jump off the roof of the org. No, I can't do that, because that would go in the papers, and that would make Scientology look bad.
Right.
That was my train of thought.
Right.
And that's how they teach you to think. As a staff member and a Sea Org member, that is the first thing you think about, is how are my public actions going to affect the church? What are the ramifications of me doing this thing? Not even necessarily something bad, not suicide, not, crimes or whatever, but, anything, any unusual thing. You go, well, how is this haircut going to impact the image of Scientology? If I get this tattoo, I can't get it in a place that other people can see it, because that will reflect on Scientology, because I'm a representation of the church.
Correct. Yeah, totally had that.
And that's, you are brainwashed to think that. I mean, like one of the first things that I did when I got out was I dyed my hair blue, because fuck you, because I can.
Exactly.
But that is how you think. So I went to my mission in charge. It's the person in charge of the mission on the ground, Renee Page.
She was your mission IC.
She was my mission IC.
Jimmy Page's wife.
That's right.
Yeah, I know her. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
And she is a very well-intentioned lady.
Yes, she is. Really nice woman.
She's very well-intentioned. She's very sweet.
Yep.
Definitely gets in over her head. And I definitely have seen her carry out orders and do mean things that I know she did not want to be doing, but had no choice.
That's right.
There are situations you get put in where either you can cause somebody else some pain, or you can suffer right next to them. And that's not really a choice at all.
Well, and that is actually, I want to clarify, or I want to say something about what you just said there, because that's important. Because people do wonder how this happens, and there is a lot of indoctrination going on in Scientology all the time. and in the Sea Org, it's ramped up 20 times. So there's a group think, there's an in-group mentality within the Sea Org that, you know, it's supposed to be unpleasant, tough, rigorous, hard, difficult to, you know, carry on with. You're supposed to have this high level of confront where you're supposed to be able to do anything, any job, anytime, anywhere anybody asks you to do, no matter what your training level, no matter what you know how to do. You're just supposed to pull shit off.
Yeah,
And
I mean, there's even policies that say that, specifically for Sea Org members, just to clarify. There are literally policies that say, stop pretending you don't know how to do things. You are immortal spiritual beings that have lived, you know, millions of lifetimes. So anytime you say you don't know how to do something, you're just pretending, and you need to cut it out, because you absolutely can do anything, whether you think you can or not. And any failure is just you being like intentionally weak.
exactly. And that's how it's communicated, is you are purposefully being counter intention to whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because I really want to make it clear to people out there who might not understand or conceive of how this works. It's not like an office job or a corporate job or something. It's not even like the military. It's actually a lot worse. So you're indoctrinated with the policy, but then there's also I want to stress the group dynamic expects you to be an asshole. That's actually the standard that you're given as how you're supposed to act. So if you're a nice person, or you're kind of the person who doesn't want to get in people's faces or doesn't want to make people cry or feel bad, you're going to have to get over that real fast. Or like she just said, you're going to be the person standing side by side with the person being disciplined. You're going to get disciplined too. And it's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be fun.
That's right.
You're going to learn the lesson.
It's totally true. And it really is that way. It really is. You know, if you, like, shit rolls downhill big time. And either you can be an enormous asshole to the people underneath you, or the people above you will see that you're not mean enough, and they will heap it onto you. The only way to get that heat off of you is to push it onto other people. And if you're not willing to push it onto other people, you will end up at the bottom really, really fast. Exactly. And that was a lesson that, especially in management, we all learned that really fast or didn't stick around. So I went to my mission. I see Renee Page. I told her, hey, private meeting, I'm having these thoughts. I want to jump off the building. I want to jump into traffic. It scares me. I need to get off this mission. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm really seriously thinking about killing myself. And she said, no, you're not. Stop dramatizing. That's not you thinking that. Don't ever say that again. And don't ever tell anyone else that you're having these thoughts, because it'll affect your quals. And to clarify, quals is qualifications. And there are a lot of positions and posts that you're not allowed to hold if you've ever had suicidal thoughts. So her first thought was not, wow, I need to help you. Her first thought was, you're trying to get out of this because you're not having fun, and don't tell anyone else because you'll get in trouble and I'll get in trouble.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of cover your ass there. There's also a sick, twisted idea in her mind that she probably thought she was helping you in some way.
I'm sure she did. I'm sure she absolutely believed that what she was saying was true.
Yep.
I'm sure she absolutely believed that it was just me being dramatic and trying to get out of doing something I didn't want to do. I'm sure she didn't really think that I was going to kill myself, which obviously I didn't. And she did report something. I don't know what she reported, but she reported something, because within a week or two, I got pulled off of that mission, and I got reposted at management level. I got reposted in the actual LRHCOM office at CLO. So,
which you would not have been able to do if it had been known that you had this is the qualifications point. In order to be on that post, you couldn't have had a suicide threat. So she must not have reported that.
Right. And I don't know what she did report. I never found out what she actually reported, but she reported something, because within a week or two, I was off that mission and I was on post.
Okay.
So, so now fast forward a little bit. That was fine. I actually enjoyed that post. I enjoyed what I was doing. It was good. It was relatively low pressure. It was a lot of administrative work. which I'm good at. I'm good at administrative stuff. And that was fine. And I was doing really well at it. So within a year, I got promoted again. That's when I got promoted to the qualifications post that we were talking about earlier, where I was in charge of the quality control for the West US. So,
and about what year was this?
Late 2013, early 2014.
Okay, so around the time that I'm officially getting declared. Or
yes, it was actually, I think we talked about this.
Yeah,
this was right around the time you were officially getting declared. So my husband was the one at Flag who was interrogating your girlfriend.
Right. That's right.
He was the one who was interrogating her.
That's right. Yeah.
What did you call her in your book?
I don't know. I've referred to her by her real name since, but let's just call her, Lucy or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah. Fine. So he was the one in charge of interrogating Lucy, and he was the one who then found out that she was communicating with you about these things that she wasn't allowed to tell you about, and I think it eventually was the reason that you did get declared.
Yep.
So
that's it again, this really weird connection, and only because Scientology is such a tiny little world that stuff like this happen.
It's bizarre. It's so bizarre. Super weird. So that was right about the time that I became that post, and all of a sudden these things were affecting me. So as somebody who had no training, like I was not technically trained in Scientology at all, I just had some administrative training. All of a sudden I was in charge of quality control for all of the technology being delivered in these orgs, which makes no sense.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Well, and by training, we actually are talking about in the methods and procedures of Scientology auditing and training. And, knock it, call it a bunch of crap, pseudoscientific garbage, which it all is. There are still methods and procedures you should know if you're going to do a QC job.
That's right. It's, it's pseudoscientific garbage, but it's very highly standardized pseudoscientific garbage.
That's right.
There are very set, rigorous procedures and steps that someone needs to be trained in if they're going to be delivering it. So I was all of a sudden in charge of quality control, which actually the job itself is a total lie, because you're not in charge of quality control when you're doing that. What you're in charge of is you're in charge of making sure that there are people being recruited to add to the staff numbers of all of the orgs, specifically to go into training for technical posts, so that there are more auditors to deliver spiritual counseling and more supervisors to deliver the classes. And what you get, run on and what you live or die by is not the quality of delivery. What you live and die by is how many new people were added into training that week.
Yep.
So once again, I was sucked into recruiting and hiring, which I hated because I was always miserable. And why would I recruit people to do something that I was miserable at? So in order to do the job well, I had to continually lie to myself and to other people that this was a good thing. Which psychologically, I'm sure, was very exciting.
Well, would you say, people have asked me what was the breaking point, and I had a 10-year stretch before I finally, realized I needed to leave. But the breaking point for me was the day I realized that I was telling more lies than truth. And it's exactly along the line of what you were just describing. I'm wondering if you would describe it similarly.
I don't know that I ever realized that or came to that conclusion necessarily on my own.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely was a factor and was a reason that I was never a good recruiter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, you would have been described as a good recruiter, but that's also because you were willing to lie.
Yeah, I was. And I guess, again, you think it's all in their greatest good.
That's
so,
right. I'm not blaming you for anything.
No, I get it. I just want to make it clear that, this wasn't, it's not about being malicious. It's
Right.
about, you know, acceptable truths, because keep in mind that's something
right.
else Hubbard talks about, right? Is
Is
acceptable
the
truth.
acceptable truth. Don't lie, but tell the acceptable truth.
Right.
And after a few years, I got all right at it, and I got to a point where I could tell an acceptable truth, but I was a bad liar. I'm a really bad liar. So the only way that I ever got away with lies was by lies of omission, or like misdirecting attention, never outright overtly saying like, yeah, of course you'll have time off, of course you'll make enough money. Like I never got to a point where I could comfortably and convincingly say something like that. So I was never a good recruiter. But this is where the breaking point really started for me, was on that post, because it's very unique to that level of management, what we were talking about earlier, where, you know, happiness is looked on as like, well, you're just not confronting, and like you're expected to be unhappy all the time, and you're really, it really is a job requirement to be mean to other people if you want to survive at all. And nobody will ever come out right and say that. That's the other thing that really fucks you up, is that nobody will ever admit that that's what it is. And if you were ever caught saying something like that overtly, oh God, like you would be in so much trouble. So you have this weird psychological trap going on where you figured out what you need to do to survive, and you also know that it's really fucked up, but you can't talk to anybody about it.
Right.
Because you can't trust who's going to say what. The only person I ever talked to about it was Sunny and Chris. Because I already knew. I mean, we were all fucked together. You know what I mean? We were all in that same boat.
It's so fucking weird to me that you and I are out here having this conversation, talking about this, and those two people are still in there stuck.
Mm-hmm. I know.
It's so tragic to me.
Well, I think part of it also is just the family connections that they have.
Yeah.
In Scientology are so much stronger than what we have or had. I mean, not to negate what I had or have, because my mom is still in, and my brother is still in, and my stepdad is still in, and I was very close with them. But I also, after being in the Sea Org for 6 years, and not really seeing them during that time, seeing them once or twice a year, it was a much weaker connection than what it had previously been. And I had also, because of the post that I was holding, I was above them. Like I was senior to them, and they would come to me for advice on what to do. And, you know, for my little brother, that's fine. But my mom and my stepdad would come to me and say, hey, I'm having this problem, you know, at my local org. What do I do? Who do I write my report to? What should I say? So it kind of had a little bit of a role reversal there, and it made it easier for me in a way to make that decision for myself instead of relying on advice from my mom, you know, because of that.
Sure.
Whereas, you know, Chris and Sunny are both married. Their spouses are both in the Sea Org. Chris is absolutely devoted to his wife. I think she has family who are also diehard Scientologists. Sunny's mom is on staff at a mission. You know, Liam's family are all diehard Scientologists. He's got brothers and sisters who are in. Like, it's
no, for sure. Again, for sure, definitely.
It's a disconnection thing. It's a way bigger stick for them than it is for me or you.
Yeah, because I was fortunate in that my parents had already gotten out.
That's right.
And so I had a support system waiting for me, and it was made clear to me before I left that I would have support. And that's what enabled me to actually take the step out. And they're not up to having those conversations, and they don't have that support system. And it's very, very sad when it's, you know, when looking at that, you know, even now.
That's right. And I'm still young. I'm still very, like, relatively young. Also, I still have a lot of, you know, life ahead of me, and I can still go to college and, you know, get a degree and do something and whatever. Chris and Sunny are in, you know, they're in their 40s. They have no degree. They have, I don't think, any high school even diplomas. And so, you know, if they were to leave right now, they would be absolutely fucked.
Well, they wouldn't be completely fucked, but they think they would be. And that's the psychological problem, you know?
Yes.
Because you had some problems and issues, and I'm really, really glad you contacted me, because we were able to get you with the Aftermath Foundation.
That's right. Who absolutely helped me tremendously. probably some of the people watching this will be, you know, part of the Aftermath Foundation group on Facebook, and they'll have seen my written story. And a lot of the stuff that I'm saying now is rehash of what I wrote there. But yeah, the Aftermath Foundation absolutely helped me, and I am really glad that you set me up with them, because without them, I would be having a much more difficult time out here, like much more difficult.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't even know about them, when we first talked.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and we're really working hard to try to get word about it into the Sea Org, somehow, some way, and that work needs to continue, because these guys, if they do know, if they had any idea that there was something out here that could help them and support them and give them, some assistance that they need, and the wealth of people out here who are willing to help jobs and help with places to stay. I mean, all that stuff actually exists.
I know. And it's a problem. I've been talking to Aaron about it, how to get that word out, how to find out who's leaving the Sea Org, how to find out, where these people are going and what's happening. And it's really hard because of the way that Scientology is set up in such a 1984 Big Brother style report system. It isn't ever safe to tell somebody that you're not a Scientologist anymore, unless you know for sure that they won't turn you in.
Exactly.
And there's never a guarantee of that. It's always a risk. It's always a huge, huge risk. And you're risking, depending on how many loved ones you have in Scientology, you are risking those connections, because as soon as somebody reports you, like, you're in for it.
That's right. It's game over, man.
Exactly. So what happened after I assumed the quality control post is, within a month or two, I received 2 ComEvs in a row, like at the same time. A ComEv is a committee of evidence. It's the highest justice action that somebody can get in Scientology. It's basically, you've committed suppressive acts. We're not necessarily going to declare you an SP, but you've done some really horrifically bad shit. And there's supposed to be steps that get taken. Somebody writes a report on you, and then somebody sees you in ethics, and then you get like a court of ethics, which is like a lower level justice action. And there's supposed to be a whole bunch of steps before a committee of evidence ever gets approved. That's how it's supposed to work. That didn't happen. Without any forewarning whatsoever and no mention of anything, all of a sudden one day I get told, you are getting 2 ComEvs at once, and they're going to be held by CMO. CMO is the Commoner's Messenger Organization, and I think you've explained this to people, right, Chris?
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a whole video on it. I'll link to it below. Because there's all these sub-organizations within Scientology, right. But basically the CMO,
it's a high-level organization.
Yeah, they're the ones who are basically running things as under the direct authority of RTC. CMO are the ones who run around and actually do the yelling and screaming at people most of the time.
That's right. So the point here is, it's very unusual or it should be very unusual. It actually is very unusual for a CLO staff member, a management, continental management staff member, to receive a ComEv held by CMO. Normally it would just be other staff within that organization. So this is like some really serious shit. And it wasn't just 1 ComEv, it was 2 ComEvs at once, 2 separate bills and everything. I don't know why, but I never found out why. Nobody ever told me why.
Well, what were you ComEv for?
I was ComEv because it was for 3-4 months after the release of Golden Age of Tech 2, and there were too many auditors who were still auditing in the orgs who had not gotten through their Golden Age of Tech 2 training yet.
And they did a ComEv on you because of that?
Yes, because it was a quality control problem. And I got 2 separate ComEvs, because one of them, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I think one of the ComEvs was because not enough auditors had gotten through their updates, and one of them was because not enough new auditors had been put into training.
Right.
To then replace out the old auditors. And so I got, exactly. So what the verdict ended up being was lower condition assignment, 150 hours of amends, slap on the wrist, whatever. And that's considered a slap on the wrist. Just for the viewers out there, 150 hours of amends outside of your production time is considered a slap on the wrist. That's like a low penalty.
Yep.
So that sort of set the tone for my 2-year stint as the senior qualsec. That's what the post is called, senior qualsec.
You know, it's so funny because Hubbard actually wrote a policy letter saying to not do exactly what happened to you.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
No,
he
it's
also
funny.
wrote a policy letter saying if you're not getting at least 1 comma of a year, then you're not really living, something like that.
Yeah, not really doing your job. Yeah. Yeah, Hubbard wrote a lot of things. I just always like to point that shit out because, it is the contradictory nature of Scientology that you can always find some policy Hubbard wrote to back up anything you want to do.
Oh, literally anything.
But it is kind of odd to me always, even at this late date, years after the fact, I still get upset about the fact that there's a policy letter that specifically states, don't do this. It fucks people up. Yeah. And then they go ahead and do it anyway, Yep,
and it did fuck me up. So that sort of set the tone.
Yep.
And it was me and a couple other people on the bill. The person who replaced you was also on both of those combos. Josh, poor Josh. I know, I feel so bad for Josh.
I know.
So
talk about somebody who was victimized by Scientology. For those out there, he's another Sea Org member who got recruited into the Sea Org when he was just a little teen out of Las Vegas. And
12, 13.
Yeah, and he's got medical issues and he's got other problems. And anyway, we just recently saw an update about him, and he's still around, but he's not in a good way. And we just feel really bad for him.
There was a way to get a hold of him, but there you go. Anyway, so got through that. Everything was miserable. It really was a post where there is no winning, because there is, no matter how many people you manage to somehow long distance using nothing but telex, which is basically emails, get these orgs to recruit people and add them to the TTC, which is the training, put them in training. Doesn't matter how many people you magically get to do that. The maximum I ever got was like 8 in 1 week, which was huge. And it still wasn't enough. I couldn't be happy about that because it wasn't every single org adding somebody every single week, including Hawaii, including Santa Barbara, including Albuquerque. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
I did this for 8 years. I totally know what you mean.
So and it was 2 years of this. So at a certain point, and this is where my dates do get a little bit hazy. I think it was the beginning of 2015, something like that. I got pregnant. It was an accident. Birth control failed. It happens. I personally had never wanted kids. That was never something that I had really hoped for. I knew that my husband badly wanted kids, but he also had just come back from Flag fully trained as a class 7 CS case supervisor. It's just, for those of you out there who don't know, it doesn't fucking matter. It just means he's really, really trained. They spend a lot of money on him, a lot of time, a lot of money, whatever. 2
years, and he had just gotten back. Yeah.
That's right. So I knew the expectation would be abortion. I didn't wait for somebody to try and convince me. I didn't wait for that conversation. I pretty much already knew what the conversation was going to be. I took the pregnancy test. The medical officer was like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I guess I'm going to get an abortion." Came home that night, told my husband, just, I'm pregnant, I'm getting an abortion. That's the end of it. Like, I don't want to talk about it. That's what's happening. Definitely fucked him up. He was very visibly upset, which is totally understandable, but having any further discussion about it would have been viewed as a violation of policy, because any discussion of keeping the child automatically meant we were discussing leaving the Sea Org, which is something that you are absolutely forbidden from doing.
Right.
So there was no further discussion. I got my abortion. I was back on post the next day.
How, at that point in your career, with what you had seen, how many other people had you seen or did you know about who that had happened to? Because it clearly, or did you just jump right to abortion because you thought that was the right thing to do?
I knew about a handful of people. It was very much not publicized. And inevitably, if anybody ever got an abortion, there was a shore story. There was a cover story for they were sick, they had the flu, you know, they had an operation. It was not talked about. It was
Oh, so it's even covered up. Okay.
It's covered up internally. And the only reason that people ever know about it is because, you know, you're pregnant, you tell your friend, I need some emotional support. Your friend tells another friend, grapevine, things spread. That's how it works. But for the most part, it is very heavily covered up. Because it definitely is not like people don't want other people thinking about like, oh yeah, Sea Org members get abortions. It's just a thing. So
right.
I also was obviously very unhappy on my post at the time. And when I found out I was pregnant, I went to HR and I was like, hey, I don't want my job. I want a different job. I'm really unhappy. And I got assigned a lower condition for trying to abandon my post. I got my abortion. I went back to work basically the next day after the abortion and got screamed at in front of the entire CLO by the commanding officer, who told me that she was told by HR that I wanted to abandon my post and that I shouldn't even be allowed to stand in the same line as the rest of the CLO, and I should be ashamed to show my face. And
was that Vicky Shantz?
That was, yeah, Vicky is still the CO.
Yeah, she was the CO when I was there. She's hell on wheels, man.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
Yeah.
So I afterwards, I told her, like, I don't know who told you that, but it's not true. And she apologized to me privately, but she never retracted her statement publicly or anything like that. It just was a thing. Like, you just get, sometimes at muster, you get roasted.
Yep.
That's a thing. So musters were always fun because you never knew who was going to get roasted. So that was that. Went back to post, went back to the job. Things stayed the same. Things got worse. You know, same old, late nights, no sleep, blah, blah.
Pressure. Yep.
Pressure. Smile at the wrong time. All of a sudden you're washing dishes for 2 days. You know, no time off, no time to do your laundry. Everything's always an emergency. I mean, everyone reaches a breaking point, you know, there is a breaking point for everybody. So I did reach a breaking point and I got pregnant again. And this time I got pregnant on purpose. And I did it because I wanted to leave. And I didn't think that there would be another way for me to leave because I knew that divorce was not an option for me. There was another Sea Org member around the same time who was married, and she had been begging to get a divorce for years. But because her husband was a very productive Sea Org member that they wanted to keep in the Sea Org, her HR told her she was not allowed to get a divorce. She was not allowed to ask her husband for a divorce. She was not allowed to even tell him that she was thinking about a divorce, and she had to just play nice because they needed him to stay happy so that he would not leave the Sea Org.
That is a new one.
Yes, Brandon did end up leaving, and she was so ecstatically happy when he left. She was over the fucking moon. She was so goddamn happy. She's remarried now. She's super happy. He's remarried. He has a kid. He's super happy. But because of that situation, nobody told me, nobody ever said, you can't ask for a divorce. But it was one of those situations where my husband loved me more than I loved him.
Okay.
And like, I did know that for sure. And that sounds egotistical. It's not. That's a fact.
No, I get it.
We had talked about he followed me. He gave up his huge dream of having kids just so he could be with me.
Right. Well, regardless, you shouldn't be required to stay in a relationship you don't want to be in.
Right.
It doesn't really, you know, who loves who more, who did what to who. You should have the freedom to have the relationships you want.
That's right. And that's the basic problem. So I already knew like divorce was not going to be an option. If I ever told him I'm leaving the Sea Org, you should stay, let's get a divorce, he would come with me. He would say, no, I don't want a divorce. I'm coming with you. Like,
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, when a Sea Org member gets pregnant, if she keeps the baby, the husband has to go with her. There is no option of divorce, and that's because of child support laws.
Right. Early on, they were doing that, but they obviously had to stop. Yeah.
They had to stop because of child support.
Right.
So, so those are the options. If you get pregnant, you get an abortion or you both leave. There's no one leaves and one stays. It's not a thing. So I got pregnant. I went in, I said, I'm keeping it. As soon as I said I'm keeping the baby, my husband was moved out of our room nobody told me anything. They just moved him in the middle of the day while I was, on post and he was on post. Came home that night, all of his stuff was gone. I was by myself in an empty room. I was isolated from all of my friends. I was isolated completely. The only thing that I was allowed to do that I was like taken out of my room was for interrogations and ethics handlings, working on ethics program, reading policy letters, word clearing policy letters, getting interrogated.
And by interrogated, you mean on the meter, getting sec checked?
Yes, I mean sec checked.
Yeah. I am very impressed, by the way, and I'm going to note this because this is impressive, how you have eschewed the language, how you've changed the language in your mind, and you are not communicating with Scientologies. For the amount of time you've been out, it's impressive.
I appreciate that. I really work on it.
Yeah, it's good.
I am making an actual effort here to use regular language and not speak Scientologies. It would be very easy for me to slip back into it and just go on a whole roll, but I also want anybody watching this to understand what I'm saying. That's very important to me, is to be understood and understandable.
No, you're doing great. So please carry on.
Okay, good. So then I stuck to my guns. I said, no, I'm doing this. I'm like, I want to keep the baby. This is what I'm doing. Oh God. Okay. I forgot something.
Pray tell, what did you forget?
So at first I pretended I was going to get an abortion. Nobody knows this.
Oh, okay.
Nobody knows this.
Uh-huh.
My first abortion was by pill. They give you the pill and you take it and you go home and you have a miscarriage. It's really messy and uncomfortable and not recommended. So I went to Planned Parenthood. I got the pill. I pretended to swallow it and I threw it away. Nobody knows that I did that. This is the first time I'm actually telling anybody that I did that, because I immediately buried it.
Got it.
Because that was dangerous.
Yep.
Because my actual plan was pretend that I did it, pretend that I'm complying. Oh, it didn't work. Let's go check it out. Ultrasound, baby's still intact. Guess I'm having the baby because the abortion didn't work. It's a sign I should have the baby. And that way, it's not my fault. I'm not some horrible person. It just didn't work out.
Right.
What actually ended up happening was I pretended to take the pill. The abortion didn't happen. Went to the doctor. Doctor said the baby's there. And then I said, okay, I'm having the baby. And then the isolation all happened.
Okay.
But I also had people coming to me and telling me how my baby was going to be deformed, how it was going to be mentally handicapped, how it was going to have a miserable life, how it was going to be a suppressive person because I had taken this pill and harmed it while it was still, an embryo, and it was going to have all of these horrible things and be just awful, and that I was actually doing a really evil thing by deciding to carry the baby to term.
This is disgusting.
Yeah, but this is the psychological waterboarding that somebody goes through when they're determined to leave the Sea Org.
Yeah.
If somebody on a post that is determined to be of value to the Sea Org decides that they want to leave, this is the type of psychological waterboarding that they get put through. So part of the day I was being sec checked, part of the day I was doing labor, like hard labor. I ended up doing just like administrative labeling and filing and stuff like that for a while, and that was fine. I would listen to my music and I would just be there by myself doing that filing, and it was okay. And then someone came and told me, well, you can't do that anymore because you're too individuated. you all isolated me. Like, what do you want? But okay. So I wasn't allowed to do that anymore because it gave me some small joy. So then I got put in the kitchens doing labor there, and just helping with like prepping the food and carrying things. And I was like, hey, there's certain things I can't carry. I can't carry really heavy things. Like, I'm not gonna put the baby at risk. I'm just gonna, I'll help you cut cakes and put things on platters and do stuff like that. After, I want to say 2-3 weeks of this, and certain people who I had considered to be very close friends just completely abandoned me and refused to talk to me and would not look at me. And certain people who I considered to be friends came and talked to me and tried to get me to see a reason and tried to talk me into staying and nobody ever said you need to get an abortion. Nobody ever said that. But what they would say is you need to stay. You're very valuable. Your experience is valuable. Your husband is valuable. We love you. Like, lots of love bombs with the implication that I needed to get an abortion in order to stay. Like, that's an understood fact.
Well, there was only
right?
one way, because
that's right.
You can't stay and have a baby. There's just no way that's going to ever happen. So obvious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, so finally one of the security guards, Odo, actually came and saw me and was like, what does your husband think about this? And I was like, I don't know what he thinks about this because I haven't been allowed to see him for 2 weeks. And Odo was like, that's fucking stupid. Go demand to see him. Like, go walk in there and be like, I need to talk to my husband right now, and don't leave until someone lets you talk to him. I know, right? So that's what I did.
Was Odo having a particularly off day or something that he was giving such good advice? What the hell?
I always kind of got along with Odo. Like,
well, everybody gets along with Odo. He's very easygoing, but he's still a security guard in pack. I mean,
I know. I don't know that he is cunning enough to be that manipulative.
Right. I think that's probably it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's definitely not like the security chief. Okay. Fair enough.
No. So honestly, I think he just at that point was like, wow, that's dumb. He kind of speaks his mind,
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to my husband finally after like 2 weeks. He still was not allowed to move back into our room, but I did tell him, like, I want to keep the baby. I want to leave. And he basically was like, he was very torn. All of his friends were there. He loved what he was doing. He loved his job. But he did end up saying, whatever you decide to do, I'll support you. If you decide to keep the baby, I'll come with you. If you decide to get an abortion, I'll still be here. Like, whatever you decide to do, I'll support you. And I could see he was very torn.
Well, yeah, for a Sea Org member, I mean, in his position, that was going out on a limb. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to be like, what the fuck? That was horrible. What the hell with this guy? I'm telling you, in that place, in that time.
No,
that guy was going all the way out on a limb. Yeah.
Yes, that's a huge gesture. That's huge. And especially for somebody who really badly wanted kids, and especially for somebody who was so trained and had so much invested in him, and there was a lot of hopes and pressures riding on him specifically, to even be able to say, I will support you in your decision, is huge.
Yeah.
And that's, again, like I said before, he is a good guy. He is a good person. He just was not the right person for me.
Right.
So, fine. Maintained. By this time, I am 2.5, 3 months pregnant, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, one night I'm in the kitchens and I get called into the office of, God, what's her name? Julie McCloskey at ASHO.
Huh, okay. McCloskey, yeah.
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 So she basically was the person who was very high up on their org board, over the divisions that my husband worked in. She was an executive in that organization.
Okay, got it. So she oversaw quality control and delivery and treasury, and yeah, they call it the chief officer in the Sea Org.
Yes, it's an executive position.
Yeah.
So she sat me down and she talked to me for a couple of hours. She told me about how she had gotten an abortion. She told me about how it's not natural for thetans to have children because a thetan is just a spiritual being and they don't reproduce like amoebas. It's all just considerations. And, you know, wanting to have kids is just dramatizing past lives where we did have kids. And there's future lives where I can have kids, and there's past lives where I've already had kids, and I don't really need to have kids. But if I do have this kid and I pull my husband out of the Sea Organization by having this kid, it will be the biggest overt that I will ever commit on the whole track.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
So, and she talked to me for probably three and a half hours, walked around the base. I cried a lot. And she convinced me to have an abortion.
Yep.
So I scheduled my appointment. I went in. I had them sedate me, despite the fact that Scientology says you should never be sedated for operations if you can avoid it. I said, fuck that. You're going to sedate me. It was horrific. It was awful. I woke up in intense pain. There was still a part of the baby inside of me that the doctor had to reach in and pull out physically. I know. I see the face you're making.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to.
No. It's fine. I'm not offended. I'm just it hurt so bad.
Yeah.
And I was basically just in shock after that.
Yeah.
So, and I went. Someone had taken me to go get the abortion done, to get the procedure done. I came out. He put me in the car. He took me to go get sushi to cheer me up. It was Brandon Faust, actually, of all people. This was when he was the staff chaplain. Got some food, stopped at the grocery store, got some supplies, you know, pads and chocolate, and ice cream, and various other things. Took me back to my room. I slept for probably two days. And then I didn't know what to do, because obviously I couldn't just go back to work doing the same thing I'd been doing. Everyone had just seen me doing heavy labor for like a month. And they all made it really clear that I wasn't their friend anymore. Like, it was very obvious that I wasn't acceptable to be part of their group.
Right.
So what was I going to do? This was at the end of 2015.
Okay.
This was in December of 2015, right before Christmas. And so every year, Scientology has this big event called the New Year's event. And it's put on live in Los Angeles. And there's approximately 3 people who are in charge of logistically putting it together and filling it up. I happen to be friends with 2 of them. And these were people who actually had stuck by me during the whole pregnancy and abortion and had, you know, been there for me. So I just went down there to the events unit and started helping them. You know, 3 people to put on an event that's supposed to have whatever 5,000 attendees or some bullshit number.
Right.
But you know, it's big. It's at the shrine. There's a lot of logistics to coordinate, and they get stretched. So I just filled in the gaps and I started doing admin, and I made myself very indispensable to them. I did that. You know, it only took 3 days of me doing that to become indispensable, because now you've got 4 people running this international event. Which is great, because less than a week after I got an abortion, somebody came to me and said, okay, time to do the Cat B EPF.
Right.
And do you want to explain what that
Well,
is?
yeah, it's basically redoing your boot camp. Category B is where staff Sea Org members are going to get retreaded or rerun through their basics, quote unquote, as Sea Org members, because clearly they have gone off the rails in some fashion or another, or failed on their post for some reason. And it is sort of a lesser penalty or a lesser handling for a person than sending them to the RPF.
That's right.
Which we've talked about all kinds on my channel, so I'm not going to I'm not going to go over any of that. But the EPF is just, heavy labor, study 5 hours a day, and learning your basics as a Sea Org member.
That's right. And if you're doing the category B EPF, you're probably also going to get sec checked at the same time.
Yep.
So then that's what I was finishing my sec check. What it also acts as is brainwashing. You're being re-brainwashed. To put it in sort of crude layman's terms, you get put through the Cat B when the brainwashing starts to wear off and you start to rebel and act against how a Sea Org member is supposed to act, but you didn't leave. Maybe you tried to leave. That's a really good way to get put on the Cat B, is to try to leave and fail. Maybe you walked off post. Maybe you really fucked up. Whatever it is, the brainwashing is starting to wear off and you need to get put through the washing machine again.
That's exactly, you could not have put it more accurately. I like your explanation a lot more than mine.
But realize this is less than a week after I just had an abortion. They're like, great, you're going to go do a program of heavy labor.
Right.
So I was like, no, I'm still healing. I can't. Like, I cannot physically do that. So this went back and forth for a couple of days. And then finally a very senior person stepped in and was like, you can have her after the event. We actually need her for this. Once we don't need her anymore, then you can have her. Right now we need her. So I was safe until the new year. I got to have Christmas with my family, which was very nice. And, do that whole thing. So I went through my brainwashing. I came out nicely brainwashed, totally gung-ho. I was like ready to rock and roll, ready to get back on post, ready to do whatever was required of me. As a Sea Org member, I was very willing.
Wow, it was that effective.
It was very effective. It was very effective.
In addition to the sec check, what did they have you doing?
You do the heavy labor. You do 5 hours of heavy labor a day. You also do Chinese school of quotes about the Sea Org, which is basically someone stands up with, a bulletin board or a, large letters so everyone can see it, and they yell out part of the quote and then everybody yells it back. And it's like a memorization technique. It's called Chinese school. So you memorize certain quotes this way, and all the quotes are about how the Sea Org is tough and dedicated and, really hard to get through and all this stuff, and just reinforcing these principles about how, like, it's okay that you're unhappy because that's how it's supposed to be.
It's interesting, isn't it? How you can read these issues from Hubbard about how it's a tough outfit, only the strong survive, only the tigers survive. And it somehow, I guess it had this effect on you, it certainly did on me, that you strive to be this ideal that Hubbard is putting out there of.
Well, it's a pride thing. It's like, it's honestly, it's a pride thing. It's like, yeah, like, I can make it. Of course I can make it,
Right. I'm not a wuss.
Like,
I can do this.
I'm not going to wash out. I'm not going to fail.
Right.
And it really preys on that. So you do that. You do like team drills, team exercises, team games. You get inspected. Your living quarters get inspected once a day to make sure that they're perfectly neat and tidy, very similar to like boot camp, military standards. If it's not neat and tidy, if it fails, then you do push-ups or you do jumping jacks or you do burpees. You study or you get sec checked and you're restudying those basic principles. And it's really like a combination of what you're studying and doing, plus the internal pressure of the group. Everybody is there with this idea of like, yeah, we're going to be perfect Sea Org members. And there's definitely, like, once you're in the Sea Org for a couple of years, you get very jaded in certain ways. And if you get too jaded, the brainwashing wears off. So being with these new little, like, brand new Sea Org members who are all excited about it and not jaded, you kind of like, oh, I can't be jaded. I can't be that way. Thinking that way is wrong. And that all contributes to it. And there's also, once you're done with it, you're like, I'm really ready to stop doing 5 hours of heavy labor every day. I'm like really ready to be done with this, right?
Right.
And And there's an element of desperation to it of like, please get me out of here. Like, I'm done. I swear I'm done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
don't make me do this anymore. And then there's also the humiliation of you have to run around the base in the EPF uniform, and all these people see you that know what your post was, and they know, you know, what your status was, and they know what you used to be. And now you're running around with all of the new recruits and like, oh wow, you must have really fucked up because we can see you there. And there is an embarrassment factor too.
Yep, that's right. It's a shaming technique.
It's an absolute shaming technique. So I finished and I was ready to graduate and I was ready to get on post and I was all gung ho. And I got pulled aside and told, your husband has to get a vasectomy before you can graduate. And I said, what? And they said, yeah. So this is not, I can't officially tell you this. I can't officially say this to you. But just like as in confidence, as an aside, you are not going to be allowed to graduate the EPF until your husband gets a vasectomy, because we can't have another accident like this.
Right.
And this was because there was a similar situation with 2 Sea Org members about a month earlier, where the wife got pregnant, got an abortion, did the Cat B EPF, and then immediately got pregnant again, but didn't tell anybody that she got pregnant and waited until it was too late for an abortion to tell anyone.
Right.
And then they had to let them leave because she couldn't physically get an abortion at that point. So they wanted to make sure that that wouldn't happen with us because my husband was too important. So I was given the choice of stay on the EPF until he decides to do it on his own, or convince him to do it.
Had somebody already spoken with him about it?
Apparently so, but I don't know. I don't remember who.
Okay.
Someone had talked to him about it and he had said no.
Okay.
So they were at a point where they couldn't really force the issue with him because he had already told them no. But
and while you were on the category B EPF, you were not back with him.
I was not allowed to see him, no.
Right.
I was not allowed to live with him. I was living separately from him in, bunk beds.
But now you were supposed to go see him, I guess, after post or something?
Yes.
And convince him that this was the greatest good for the greatest number.
Yes.
And you did what?
I did that.
Okay.
I saw him and I convinced him to get a vasectomy. And I told him I was not going to be allowed to graduate until he did it. And I needed him to do it because we were going to be in the Sea Org forever. So we were never going to have kids. So what's the point?
Right.
And just as a side note, as of when I left, he got the vasectomy in early 2016. When I ran away in late 2018, he still was getting pains from it, after effects from the vasectomy.
That sucks.
It's super shitty.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad about that. I honestly do. I have a lot of guilt about that. I should have just stood my ground and said no, but the brainwashing worked.
I get where you're coming from. And in case anybody hasn't seen my earlier video about this whole thing, I did exactly the conversation that was done with you to get you to have an abortion that chief officer did. I did that with Sunny many years ago. And it is probably the second biggest regret of my life. The first one being that I didn't just skip out on Scientology back in 1991 and go be with my kid in Australia. That is by far the number one regret of my life. I've since met him, interacted with him. We're fine, but I'm just saying this convincing Sunny to have an abortion was absolutely the single worst thing I've ever done to somebody. I felt so bad about it because I was not because of the fact of an abortion, which I support a woman's right to choose. It's that I forced it on her. I convinced her to do something she really didn't want to do. And I absolutely
understand that. I 100% understand that. And not the time or the place, but I didn't know you had a son.
I do. Yes, I have a son. His name is Josh. He lives in Australia. He's a grown-ass man now. And I went and visited him 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago in Australia. and we're getting along just fine. We have a nice relationship now. But the whole time I was in Scientology and the Sea Org, I did not have that with him, and I should have, just. It's a whole story, but that's that story.
Totally fine.
But anyway, I wanted to just kind of put it out there that you and I have
talk about it later.
Been on the wrong end of this thing,
Yes, we have.
on this whole issue. And I just want to say to you, I mean, yeah, I get the guilt. I totally get it. I totally get it. And it's not like none of it's justified, but you really need to factor in the brainwashing element of that, because it's powerful stuff. It's not something you mess around with. It's powerful stuff.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So, okay, so now we're in early 2016.
Yep.
So I, at that point, was like partway through my training, my Golden Age Tech 2 training. I was through, level 0, level 1. I got trained up as a supervisor. I went to supervise in the Continental Training Work, which is where all the Sea Org members go to study. And then I was immediately transferred to the Out-Org Trainee Program. So now I was supervising all of the international executives who were coming to LA in early 2016 for executive training. And I was part of that whole program throughout 2016 and to the beginning of 2017.
Okay.
I loved it. I love supervising. I love teaching. It was something I really believed in. I really believed what I was helping teach was correct. And I had a lot of fun. I met a lot of people that I still consider friends. And, that was great.
Yep.
Beginning of 2017, I got transferred to the Missionary unit. And I got sent out on mission. Once again. I warned them. I just want to say this right now to anyone who's watching. When Jason Hemphill told me he wanted me to be a missionary, I told him I was crazy. I straight up warned him. I said, you don't want to do this. You don't want to send me out on mission. I am crazy. You will regret this.
And you were right. No. I mean, I don't know about the crazy part, but the rest of it.
I was right.
I think you were the only sane one in the room, but okay.
I guarantee you he regrets it.
That's for sure.
So fast forward a couple months, whatever. I ended up getting sent out to Mountain View Org, which is in Silicon Valley. It's an org that grand opened in, I think, February of 2018. I was there for all of it. I was there for all of the recruitment. I was there for the grand opening, and I was there up until October of 2018. I was in charge, once again, of technical delivery.
See, and this I have to just say real fast for people who've got a history with me, she was doing exactly the same stuff I was doing in Twin Cities. He was doing in Silicon Valley. Same shit.
Same thing. Yeah. Exact same thing.
It's same kind of mission, same parameters, same issue, all the same stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So now I'm going to come clean here. I did a bad thing. There was, I know, Chris, you're like, oh, what bad thing did you do now?
Yeah, right. What? After all this?
No. So I did a bad thing. So they grand opened in February. By April or so, April, May, they were pretty much maxed out on their delivery. Like, you take X amount of auditors with Y amount of pre-clears, they go into session, there is only so many hours in a day that they can audit. However, the amount of intense heat and pressure to keep the statistics going up and keep those numbers on the graph going up is indescribable unless you've lived it.
Right.
There really is no way to convey the bone-chilling terror of, oh my God, the stats are going to be down. And I had managed to truthfully keep them going up for about 2 months straight without fudging the numbers or anything like that. So now it was going to be, oh, like, you are the devil because you broke that trend. Oh my God, like, you didn't keep them going up. They were going to be going up, with no dips and expansion, but you fucked up. And every week was compounding that terror, right? So what did I do? I started fudging the numbers.
Surprise.
Surprise.
The solution every single Scientology staff member comes to at one point or another. Just so everybody's clear on this.
Oh yeah, and it is a crime. It's a huge crime in Scientology. It's called falsifying statistics.
Yep.
And it's a massive crime. The worst.
A massive crime that everyone engages in.
That's right. Now, was I falsifying something like gross income? Was I pretending to invoice money that the org didn't actually have that was going to affect staff pay or bills? No. What was I falsifying? Hours delivered. Was I defrauding any pre-clears? No. Did I pretend to use up intensives that had been paid for? No. Was it actually like hurting anybody? Nope. Is it a high crime? Yes. What I did was a suppressive act. So I did this for, probably 6 months. Kept it up through October.
That is hard to do, by the way. That's hard to do.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of other statistics that feed into these statistics. They're an integrated whole. So you have to falsify this and this and this, but you got to do it in such a way that it doesn't look too crazy.
Funny on the graph. And I have the perfect background for it because I worked in management for 2 years. So I had to know all about statistical analysis. I had to know what statistics got looked at with what other statistics. I had to know how everything affected everything else.
Yep.
There was just a lot of pieces that fell into place that made it, I'm not going to say easy because it wasn't easy, but relatively easy for me to falsify the statistics I needed to falsify in order to avoid getting nuked. So that's all going on, right? Now I'm at a point where I have not seen my husband really for 2 years. I've seen him maybe 3 or 4 times in 2 years. He is increasingly unhappy and making it very known, which in the Sea Org is a no-no, by the way. You're not allowed to tell your spouse that you're unhappy with the fact that their job pulls them away from you for any length of time, because that's considered counterintention.
Yep.
But he's increasingly vocal about his unhappiness. He actually had an episode where he passed out while he was working. He had an epileptic fit and he passed out, and they took him to the hospital. And they couldn't find anything wrong with him except that he was only sleeping 4 hours a night for several months on end.
Right.
He's also one of these guys that's super, super high metabolism, like crazy high metabolism. Not necessarily to the point where anything's physically wrong with them, but if he doesn't eat every couple of hours, like low blood sugar, but you're only allowed to eat at the designated meal times. There's no snack breaks. So sucks to be you.
Right.
That's a side note. That's not even that's not even really the story. This is a side note. So there was a couple of different things that was happening. So I started falsifying those statistics. At the same time, my phone broke in early 2017. My phone I dropped it in the toilet and it broke. The phones that they give you as a Sea Org member are heavily monitored. Everything is run through a server in Los Angeles at the main Sea Org base. Security guards check all your texts, they check all your emails, they check your phone usage. It's a neutered phone. You can't get on the internet with it, or if you can get on the internet, certain sites are blocked, and they monitor your usage. They can record calls if they want to. They can see your call logs. The whole thing is super heavily monitored.
And I got to interject real fast here. That's probably a direct result of what me and other Sea Org members did back when we were abusing, quote unquote, the privilege of having the phone, because that was not that way when I was in the Sea Org up until 2012. The phones were not, data. They didn't have data, but they weren't going through some server that was being monitored by PAC security. That was not the case.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's monitored by ILO security.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, as of like 2014, 2015, all the phones get run through the ILO servers, and they're all fully monitored by security.
Of course they are. Of course they are. So, Scientology does manage to learn from its mistakes when it comes to authoritarian measures they have to take in order to control people.
Yeah, they learn the wrong lessons, Chris.
Yeah, just saying. That's my point.
So my very heavily monitored and bugged phone on the Scientology phone plan fell in the toilet and died. a
Okay.
very sad and watery death. So I had to get a new phone. And when I called up to, headquarters and said, hey, my phone died, I need a new phone, they said, okay, great, send us your old phone and we'll send you the new one in about 2 weeks. And I said, no, thank you, but no, I can't wait 2 weeks. I'm out in the wilderness here. Like, I'm on a recruitment project. I literally use my phone every second of every day. I can't go 2 weeks with no phone. That's not going to happen. But of course, I didn't actually say that out loud. I said, yes, sir. And then I never sent them the phone. What I did was I took the SIM card and I put it in a new phone. And then I guess like a couple months later, they were like, she never sent us the phone. Guess we'll deactivate it. So then I just got an entirely new phone. And through no, cunning deception or planning or anything like that, it wasn't what I was trying to do. But all of a sudden I had this phone and it had internet access. It had unlimited data. Nobody was monitoring it. Nobody was tracking it. And I had a line into the outside world.
Yep. You slipped through the security cracks.
That's right.
And again, just like I did, different ways, different means, but the same result. You got on the internet.
Exactly. And I went on Reddit. And I didn't go on Reddit looking for anti-Scientology anything. I went on Reddit looking for shit to do because I was bored and I was more or less managing everything, one-handed, just like, hey, do this, keep everything kind of rolling. And then I had all this free time. I had a bunch of time where I had to look busy.
How many other Sea Org members were with you on this mission you were on?
So initially, there were a lot. And then after the org grand opened, there were less. And then a couple months after that, there were only 4 of us. And then there were only 3 of us. And then one of us, not me, a girl who's no longer in the Sea Org, who you don't know, her name was Nia. She stole $14,000 out of the org treasury.
Okay.
And that got caught on security cameras. So then there were 2.
Oh, now you mentioned her before when we were talking. Why did she steal that money?
Well, so the org had rented an apartment for the staff because when they recruited all these people, they pulled them in from other states because there weren't enough local Scientologists to man the org. So they reached out and they found Scientologists who were in other states and they flew them in, but they needed a place for them to live. So they rented an apartment, they set it up with bunk beds, and they had like a communal staff house, and the org was paying the rent for that. The rent was due, and Nia needed to pay the rent. She was in charge of the staff logistics. And for whatever reason, instead of telling somebody, hey, I need money to pay the rent, she went into Treasury and stole $14,000 to cover staff rent for a couple months.
Wow.
I mean, this is Silicon Valley, so the rent is like really stupid high.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to point out to everybody that she wasn't stealing it and putting it in her pocket.
Oh yeah, no. She was not stealing it for her, right. Although there was like $2,000 that was never accounted for, and
okay.
She still owed the org. But the majority of it was for the staff rent.
Okay.
It was just a really stupid way of trying to solve that problem. So she got kicked out, and she got kicked out of the Sea Org for that. So then it was just 2. It was just me and one other person. So there was nobody monitoring me.
Right.
There was nobody physically monitoring anything that I was doing at that point.
Because the other person who was on the mission with you was full-time working mostly on making income.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
He was full-time making income.
Right. So he's over selling people stuff all the time. He's not paying attention to what you're doing.
All he was paying attention to was, can I keep the stats going up? Can I keep my area under control so he doesn't have to think about it? Because all he's thinking about is, how do I make $100,000 every week so that I can keep the staff pay going up, so that I can keep everything rolling, and so that we cannot get nuked.
Right. Okay, so you're over there falsifying statistics. So everybody's thinking the org is delivering more auditing than it's delivering, but in the end, who cares? Right. And so then what happens?
So I start going on Reddit, and I start going on subreddits specifically to meet people. not necessarily like a romantic capacity, just to meet people. I just wanted to talk to people. I just wanted to talk to normal people, and find out what are they like? What are normal people like?
Now, let me ask you here, because this is actually really important, and I know people are going to be very curious about this. So you had done your EPF a couple of years before, gotten all gung-ho, got a post you actually liked, supervising these executives from all these different organizations back in LA. And so did things start changing and you started kind of going negative Nelly again on Scientology because of the post change and you becoming a missionary?
Yes.
Okay.
It was definitely the post change. I was definitely salty about that. I really liked my old post and I was really like not happy about that changing. It was, again, the pressure. Like, I just don't do well under high intense pressure. Who does?
I get it. Totally get it. Yep.
But, you know, it was intense pressure. It was being, again, separated from my husband for like 2 years. It was also one of those things where they say, oh, you're just going to be gone for like 3 months. And then all of a sudden it's 2 years. When I initially went up to Mountain View, they said pack for 2 weeks.
Oh my God, they really said that?
I initially went up there to do something totally different than what I stayed there for.
Oh, you got switched around. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yep. This is
so,
the consequence, by the way, for those of you out there wondering how this is so insane. There are too few people for the number of things that the Sea Org tries to do. It spreads itself way too thin all the time.
That's right.
So
and it ends up with these like half-done things, half-baked pizzas everywhere.
Exactly. So the transferitis that goes on, it's even a term in Scientology, it's called transferitis, is chronic because they're constantly whack-a-mole. You know?
That's right. And the only way that you don't get transferred, there's 2 ways not to get transferred. One way is be super, super trained, so you're irreplaceable, which is what happened with my husband. And the other way is to be so dumb that no one wants you.
Right. That is correct. That is otherwise
those are the only ways to escape.
How long would you say would be at an average time somebody would hold a post in Scientology in the Sea Org before they get transferred around?
2 years, maybe.
2 years?
Yeah, I mean, depends on the person, depends on the post. It's the average gets skewed because you have these guys that are just lifers, and so you end up with, you know, Chris and Sunny holding the FOLO for a decade and a half because nobody can replace them now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But then the newer guys definitely get shuffled around a lot more until they find some niche.
That's right. And eventually, even the veterans, you know, the Sunny and Chris's or me. I mean, when I, you know, got kicked off I left my post. I think it kicked off when I left it after 8 years in management. That was the longest anybody that I knew in the entire time I'd been in the FOLO had held a single post. Was 8 years for me.
Eventually, everybody gets moved around.
Yeah, you can move around.
It's a matter of time. So, so there was some. I'm trying to remember what all the factors were. So there was this huge history of, you know, ups and downs. Do something I like and get it taken away. Do something I like and get it taken away. Do something I like and get it taken away. There was obviously, you know, 2 abortions, the vasectomy, mental and emotional abuse. I had reached a point in the marriage where I was more annoyed by my husband than anything else. And I knew that was wrong. And one of the things Scientology teaches you is that if you feel that way about someone, it's because you've done bad things to them.
That's right.
So I couldn't talk to anybody about this. There wasn't anybody that I could go to and say, like, I'm not in love with my husband anymore. I don't think this marriage is working. I don't want to go home and visit him. I would rather be out here. I would rather not call him every night and say goodnight. You know, I would rather just leave it. But those are all warning signs that I'm a bad person. So I couldn't talk to anyone about that.
Right.
But that's where I was at. And then I started talking to people online and making friends online. And I didn't tell anybody I was a Scientologist. I didn't tell anybody I worked for the church. You know, if I got really friendly with somebody and talked to them multiple times, I would say that I worked for a church, but I would never specify what church. You know, I would say I'm a volunteer, or I would say, you know, I work 2 jobs just to explain why I'm always at the office, you know, different things like that. But there were things that I would say that people would like twig on, and they'd be like, that's weird. That's, you know, why haven't you seen Game of Thrones? Or, why haven't you seen Rick and Morty? Or why do you work 100 hours a week and still somehow not have any money to do things?
They were asking all the right questions.
Right? And those were all really good questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so it made me start to ask those questions of myself. And I just was very lonely. I was really lonely all the time. There was a friend that I had who was somebody who I had trained. We started texting. We started texting on WhatsApp. He's in a different country. He's on a different continent. But we texted every day for almost a year. And this guy is absolutely one of my best friends. Never any romantic anything. But he was closer to me than my own family. He was like a brother to me. And he is a super dedicated staff member. And he is absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable.
Yep.
And that broke my heart more than anything else, because this guy is so dedicated. He's so dedicated, and he is so sad all the time.
What is he sad about? What does he tell you about?
He's always working at the org. He never has time for his family. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He's not a bad looking guy. He's super cute, actually. He's a total cutie, total catch, but he doesn't have a girlfriend, doesn't ever even have time to get a girlfriend. He's extremely broke because he loaned out all of his personal credit to public so that they could buy services at the org. He doesn't hardly sleep because he's always trying to make money for the org. He doesn't, no matter how much he tries, no matter how hard he works, it's never enough.
Right.
And he's always failing.
And this is not a Sea Org member. This is somebody.
No, this is somebody who I had trained.
Yeah, staff member.
This is a staff member.
Yeah.
This was one of my students who I stayed in contact with over email. And then once I got my phone that wasn't being monitored, I started just like texting him and shooting the shit all day.
Yeah. Did he ever ask you how you had so much time on your hands to shoot the shit as a Sea Org member?
Nope.
Okay, nope. Just wondering.
No. And I didn't ever ask him how he had so much time on his hands when I knew. Right. It was just one of those things. We started writing like a little side novel. This is really silly, but this is like how sad we were. We started writing a little side book together about an alternate universe where we were not Scientologists and we were just dumb 20-something-year-olds having a life.
Wow.
Because that was our escape. That was how we could escape it. And we would when we were super stressed, we'd talk about like, this is what my, alternate universe person is doing right now.
Right.
And it would just blow off some steam.
Okay.
Because realize, like in Scientology, as a staff member or a Sea Org member, you can't just go to the bar after work and get drunk and like forget about your day.
Nope.
You can't do that.
Nope, you cannot.
You can't go smoke a joint, even if it's legal in your state.
Nope.
That's not an option.
That's right.
There is no way to blow off steam like that.
That's right.
Like,
and that's seriously unhealthy. I mean, seriously unhealthy.
Absolutely. And that's not to, promote unhealthy alcoholism or, overuse of drugs or anything like that. But it's, your ways to blow off steam are so seriously limited because anything that you do outside of Post is other fish.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guarantee you, because of the way I escaped, Sea Org members are no longer allowed to go to the gym while they're on mission. I guarantee you. Right. I will tell you about it. So,
I'm quite sure that poor guy who was your mission in charge.
I'm sure he's dead.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's just absolutely splattered.
Yeah.
I feel so fucking bad for him. I really do. But he was a good guy. I don't bear him any ill will at all. And I'm sorry he had to go down, but like, I'm free, so it was worth it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And he could be too.
I so hope he does.
Yeah.
God, I hope he does. Okay, so.
Yep. So these were the factors that sort of were going on.
Factors. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. So the other thing that happened right at that time is one of the networks was this young guy who was a brand new Sea Org member, very new Scientologist, tattoos all over. And prior to Scientology, he had been in a band that had toured, like a full-on band. He toured Europe and all sorts of things. And so he didn't have quite that same like martyrdom that old Sea Org members have. And he didn't have any problem with asking for time off, which was very weird. So he would ask for time off, once a month, which was huge. And
once a month.
Warped Tour. But that's huge, right?
Oh no, it definitely for the Sea Org, it definitely is.
The Sea Org, that's massive.
Yeah.
So fucking Warped Tour came through, and he calls me up and he's like, "Hey, Warped Tour is coming through Mountain View in a couple days. You want to go?" And he got us tickets, and because my stats were up, I got us okayed to go to Warped Tour. So we took the day off and we went, and it was amazing. And I was like, is this what I've been missing? Are you fucking kidding me? And I was like, what the fuck? So then there were like 2 other concerts that I got tickets for that were spaced out. Warped Tour was in, I think, June. And then I got tickets for a concert in August, and I got tickets for a concert at like the end of September, right? Beginning of October. And one of them I had to like fly to LA by myself and do all this stuff by myself and wait up, just go to this concert by myself in LA and then get on a plane and come back all by myself, which for any other 27-year-old is like, cool, good job. You put your pants on today. But for me, that was massive, doing this thing all by myself. And it also, I think, proved like I can go do things and come back and, I'm not a risk of running away. And you can trust her and whatever, right? So I started experiencing things for the first time that were fun, just for the sake of being fun, not in a big group with other Sea Org members as a bonding exercise, not as an award for something, just like I paid for this thing and I went and did it by myself, and it was fun. And I don't have to depend on others for my own happiness. And that was really huge. I really had gotten the point that I was missing out on life. I just didn't really know what to do. The impetus wasn't there. I had sort of carved out some small freedoms for myself in that mission, but I knew that I couldn't keep it up forever. I couldn't keep falsifying the stats forever. The mission was going to end at some point, and at that point, my little house of cards was going to fall apart. Like, there was no avoiding that. At some point, I would have to go back to LA. They would find out I was falsifying the stats. I would be nuked, and that would be the end of me. So we got a telex saying, your mission is going to end soon. You're going to come back to LA probably in the next couple of weeks, basically. And at that point I went, I can't do it. I can't go back to LA. I can't go back to it. I gotta escape. I gotta run away. Because I had already tried to leave.
Right.
In several ways. I already knew I wasn't going to be allowed to leave. I wasn't going to be allowed to take my husband with me. He wasn't going to want to divorce me. I wasn't going to be allowed to go back and say I want a divorce. There was no way I was going to be able to keep, my things hidden. It was all going to come out that I had been falsifying the stats. I wasn't going to be able to keep it up, and my phone would be taken away. My freedom would be taken away. That was going to be the end of it.
Yep.
So right about that same time, I met a dude on Reddit. We were talking, we hit it off. I let him know. The first thing that I told him was that I was in an unhappy marriage and I needed his help to run away. And he was like, let me think about it. It's a little fast. We've only been talking for a day. I mean, granted, we shut up.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's good. That's good. That's fine. Keep going. Keep going. It's only a day, no big. Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, I have to tell you, I'm also running away from Scientology. And I told him everything. I mean, everything. So at this point now, we've been talking for 2 days. Granted, we talked all day, both days, until like 5 a.m. Like, we talked, but it was 2 days. So then at the second day, I told him Scientology, and he goes, "That's a dangerous cult. I will not help you run away with me as a romantic prospect, but I will help you escape from the dangerous cult." So we started talking on a Tuesday. On Thursday, I went out, bought a prepaid visa, and booked a flight for Saturday morning at 5 a.m., which meant I had to keep up the facade for the rest of Thursday and all of Friday and make sure that, A, nobody noticed anything funny and nobody noticed that I was acting weird, and B, I had to make sure nobody found out I was falsifying stats within that, 36-hour period. Which I almost got caught, by the way, on Friday. I actually had a very close call on Friday, and somebody, thankfully not the person in charge, not my boss, but one of the people that I worked very closely with, noticed that there was a discrepancy in the logs, and actually came and confronted me and was like, "Can you explain this?" And I was like, I made up some bullshit. I literally just made up some bullshit because I knew that he trusted me enough that he would believe whatever I told him, at least for the rest of that day. And by tomorrow, I would have escaped.
Right.
So Friday night comes, 10 o'clock, leave the org. I deleted all of the logs, by the way, before I left. All the statistical logs where all the stats were kept, all the records.
You just took them out?
I took them out. I deleted all of them.
Wow.
I mean, they were going to know I falsified it, but no way in hell were they going to be able to correct it. Fuck them.
Fuck them. Okay.
Yep. What are they going to do?
Yeah. Hey, I get it. It's not, believe me, this is not important in anybody's mind. So.
Oh no, nobody gives a shit.
Exactly.
I thought you would enjoy that.
Oh no, I do. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah. I thought you would like that. So yeah, I shredded all the hard copy logs and I deleted all the soft copy logs. So get home. So now my mission my mission in charge, he liked to go to the gym. That was how he relaxed. That was how he unwound, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So he had a routine, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We would get home between 10 p.m. and 12 a.m. And then he would go to the gym for like 2 hours and come home. He was total gym rat. So I knew that was his routine. Got home Friday night, waited until he left for the gym, made sure he was going to the gym, real casual. I had established a routine where we get home, we do our separate things. We don't interact once we get home. He does his thing, I do my thing. I go in my room. I had already told him that I had insomnia, so it wasn't unusual for the light to be on in my room until 2, 3, 4 in the morning. What I was actually doing was I was up on Reddit or up on YouTube and just, fucking around on the internet, but I told him it was insomnia. So that wasn't unusual. So as soon as he went to the gym, I threw everything I could fit into a carry-on bag and a backpack. All the clothes and laptop and shoes and just whatever I could fit in there, I threw that in there. I called an Uber, left the light on in my room and locked the door behind me. So, if he came home and tried the door, he'd just think I fell asleep with the light on. Took an Uber to the airport and I was free. And that night at the airport was the longest night of my life because I got there at like 11:30, 12, and they had closed security. So I had to wait outside of security until like 4:30 a.m. when they opened it back up.
Right.
And that was the vulnerable period, because if he had come home and found out that I was missing during that time period and he had gone to the airport to find me, he would have found me and he would have physically restrained me from getting on the plane.
Right.
And there would have been,
yeah. I mean, it would have been a little difficult for him to do that with TSA standing right there. But yes, I definitely get that. He would have stopped you.
He would have stopped me.
Yeah.
And there would have been no talking myself out of that situation.
Right.
There would be no explanation I could offer for that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, you would have
Plus,
been
even if I
as
got on the
busted as
flight,
busted could be.
I would have been the most busted. So that was the longest night of my life.
Yep.
It worked, as you can see. I got on the plane. You would think that that's the end of the story. It is not.
Oh no.
It is not the end of the story. So I landed in Minnesota, which is where I am now. It's very cold.
Minnesota, folks. She went to Minnesota.
And I wasn't following Chris. I swear to God. I met a rando on Reddit who happened to live in Minnesota. It's a cursed state. I don't know.
I just find it hilarious personally. Just the coincidences. It's hilarious to me.
And it's really cold. It's so cold here.
I told you it was cold there.
I know. They're having a heat wave though. It hasn't been into the negatives yet this year.
You're lucky. My first year there, it didn't go above freezing for 8 months.
Sucks to be you.
Oh God, yes it did. Oh, I hated it. That's why I left. That's why I'm in Denver now. Like, screw Minnesota, man. The place is fucking for Eskimos. Have they been plying you with questions about why you moved? Why are you in Minnesota? Have they asked you that yet?
They have. Normally I tell them it's because I was running away from a cult, and they're like, oh yeah, I guess that's the only reason you would move to Minnesota.
Right. Exactly. All right. So what happened when you got there?
So I arrive. I go to my new apartment, meet my roommate. He's fine. It was fine. We got along all right. Settle in, immediately start looking for work. I had a temp job within a couple of days. And my first day at work, this less than a week after I got there, this was 4 or 5 days after I got there, I get a text from my roommate. He says, your brother's here. And I said, what? The fuck do you mean my brother's there? And he says, your brother's at the door pretending to be a delivery man asking for you. Side note, I do love my brother. He is very dumb. He is not a smart man, but I do love him dearly.
All right. Is he, now he's a Scientologist. Is he a Sea Org member?
He's a staff member. He is an ethics officer.
Okay.
At an Orange County org.
Okay. So they got him on a plane.
They got him on a plane to come
to where you were living.
They found my address, which I had left no record of because I did not know the address of where I was going until my plane landed in Minnesota.
Right.
My roommate did not send me his address until I was physically in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. And how did he send it to you?
He texted it to me through Discord.
Okay.
My Discord app on my phone. So I knew my phone wasn't bugged.
Yep.
There was no way they could have bugged my phone.
Yep.
I had never given it to anybody. I had never left it anywhere. It was a secure phone. What I did do was I used my laptop to write and send out resumes.
Dang.
They had bugged my laptop.
Right.
Because I did not put my apartment number on my laptop. So they did not know what apartment number it was. So my brother went through the whole condo, knocking on every door looking for me, pretending to have a package for me.
Wow.
Wow. My roommate called the cops. They escorted him off the premises.
Because your roommate's awesome?
Yes. My brother, and I am here assuming that they sent someone with him. I do not think they would have sent him by himself. I'm sure they sent a Sea Org handler with him, probably somebody from OSA or an ethics officer.
Mm-hmm. It's a good assumption. That I would assume the same thing.
Yeah, I'm assuming there was somebody else. I never saw them. I don't know who it was, but I'm sure somebody came with him. But they staked out the apartment for 3 more days, until they caught me going inside. And I'm walking into the apartment at 8 a.m., spent the night over at a friend's house, got dropped off in the morning. My brother comes bolting out of the side parking lot, just running full tilt. And this kid is like, he's not a kid, he's 25, but this kid is like 5'10", 5'11", solid like 250, wrestled for all 4 years of high school, like almost took a state title. He's big. He's like a big, hefty dude. Grabs me in just a bear hug. And like, I know he didn't mean anything by it. I know he was not trying to physically restrain me, because that's not how his mind works. That's not how he thinks. He just wanted to give me a hug because he was scared, and nobody told him, like I don't know what he was told. But he's crying, and he goes, "Mom and I have been terrified for you. You've been missing for a week. You know, you won't answer any of our phone calls. You won't answer our emails. You won't answer our texts." Which, by the way, the texts they had been sending me were like, "We forgive you, whatever bad things you've done. Just come home and like, we can fix this. There's nothing so bad that you've done that you can't make it right." Which, like, thanks guys for really assuming the best there of me.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's it. I really want to point this. I really want to highlight what you just said, because it is all about victim blaming.
That's right. The whole Scientology culture is victim blaming.
Yes.
That is a huge thing. That's the point. And they don't even, like, the word victim in Scientology is a slur.
That's right.
And I don't know if you've covered this before.
No, we definitely have, but it's an important point to stress, like the other points we've been stressing. You know, it's not like your brother is sitting there thinking, I'm going to victim shame her now. They're all just as indoctrinated into this stupid mindset that it's
absolutely
it's your fault.
They're thinking that this is what's going to convince me, like, oh, I totally understand you did something bad, and I still love you even though.
Right.
Not why did you run away? Are you okay? Do you need help?
Exactly.
I'm worried about you.
That's the difference.
That's right.
You know, I forgive you for your sins and transgressions, which you clearly must have committed to have taken off like this. And we, you know, we don't really care if you're okay. We just want to, you to know that we forgive you because we're the sanctified ones and you're the one who's in the wrong right here and now.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the vein of all of the text messages and everything else. So here he is. I'm super tired. I'm just trying to go inside so I can go to bed. He's bear hugging me, crying on me. I go, Nishan, don't touch me. Get off of me. I'm going to go inside and I'm going to go to bed and you're going to leave. And he's like, what are you talking about? What are you doing here? And I go, I am exactly where I want to be. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm not a Scientologist. And if you don't leave, I'm calling the cops. And he goes, you would call the cops on your own brother? And what do you mean you're not a Scientologist? And I said, I mean exactly what I said. Yes, I would call the cops on you. Get out of my way. I don't owe you any explanations. And he was just shocked. He was totally floored. And I moved him out of the way and I went inside and I went upstairs and I called the cops anyway.
You know, you're amazing. I'm serious. I'm just going to stay up straight. I just want you to know you're fucking amazing. That is a tremendous show of strength for somebody who was days, a couple weeks out of the cult. I'm just telling you, that is very unusual and very amazing, and you are amazing.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because I would not have been able to do that within a week of taking off.
Yeah. I just knew that if I let him talk to me, if I let him keep talking, and if I engaged in any conversation with him, it was over.
Yep. Yep.
Like I knew, and I think I called you. I was calling you like twice a day.
Yeah, at this point we were in touch.
I was calling you constantly.
Yeah,
Chris, help! What do I do? My brother showed up. What?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, but I was also calling you about things like, how do I get paid?
Right.
Like, I got a job. What do I do now?
Yeah, exactly. Because at this point we had also with the Aftermath Foundation, I think you had put an application in at this point, but we were just getting the wheels going on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was just a lot. There was a lot going on. So I was talking to you. I was talking to Aaron.
Yep.
I was talking to Claire and Luis, and we were just all sort of talking. And I was going to you, and I was going to Aaron quite a bit about just different logistical things about how to survive in the outside world and how to like exist as a normal human and not New York member. And just different things. So, but that really helped, honestly, like having you and having Aaron, having my roommate, having even just a very rudimentary support system in place really helped. Just knowing that I wasn't alone really, really helped. And I also just knew that if I let my brother talk and if I engaged in any discussion with him, that was it. Like I would be fucked. There was not going to be any coming back from that. And I had won too much. I had already given up too much and gone too far to be able to go back.
Right.
And I do, like, looking back on it now, I wish that I would be able to have a conversation with him now from this viewpoint of where I stand now, where he would actually listen to me. And I wish that I would be able to have that conversation with my mom or many of my friends who are still in Scientology, because there is just a lot that they don't know, and they're suffering because of it. And that is really tragic. But from where I was at that point, I wouldn't have been, I didn't have the capacity to have that conversation. So I just knew I had to get him off of my doorstep, and I had to get him out of my face as fast as I possibly could. And I knew that was the only way I was going to be able to do that, is I just shut it down right away.
Right. Well, it was good strategy. It was very well done.
Thank you. So I did call the cops. They showed up. He was already gone. I gave them his phone number. I don't know if this is a Minnesota nice thing or what it is. It was very cute. The cops actually called him on his cell phone, and they were like, "Did you come to Minnesota to stalk your sister?" And the cops called me afterwards. They actually called me back. So I gave the report. I gave them his phone number. Cops went away. I get a phone call later, and the cop's like, "Yeah, so this is what happened. We called your brother, and he said, yes, I am in Minnesota to try and find my sister." And they were like, "Okay, well, she doesn't want to see you, and you need to leave now." And he was like, "Okay," and he never bothered me again.
You know, that is a goddamn, that is a proper law enforcement officer response to somebody escaping a fucking cult.
It was really great.
It was
really, really great. It was very cute.
That is really good. And I'm just going to point this out because it's been all over my mind today. The LAPD, the Orange County, the Riverside County PD, the Clearwater PD. I mean, these people are bought off. They would not give you the support that you got from the Minnesota police. And I just want to highlight the difference, because people are going insane wondering why the LAPD and the Riverside police and sheriff's deputies and the feds won't do anything about Scientology. Well, there's an example of somebody who's not bought off doing their job. You know? That's
right. I wasn't expecting a call back. I got a call back. It was really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So they did leave somebody behind or send somebody afterwards who staked out my apartment for a while. I was walking out to work one morning, and someone drove up in a tinted windows like SUV and took a bunch of pictures of me and drove off. My roommate worked from home, and he told me that, yeah, there's somebody like parked across the street just sitting there all day watching the apartment. Pretty usual MO, which I don't know what they expected to find. Like, I don't know what good that was doing them. Like, okay, you know where I live. You obviously know where I live. Like, what are you trying to do here?
I think what they were trying to do, just so you know, is they were hoping that you were going to have physical contact with other suppressive people or other ex-Scientologists they don't yet know about. That they're always looking for. They always want to know who are all the connections. They are obsessed with connections.
Oh yeah. Yeah, right? They are.
They have graphs.
Okay, well, yeah. You know. Well, I didn't. I disappointed them. I didn't actually get in physical contact with anybody.
Right.
So much to my dismay, if there's any SPs in the Minneapolis area, you want to have a coffee and a chat, hit me up. Like, I'm totally down. But no. So I I actually ended up meeting my boyfriend pretty shortly after that, and I moved in with him. That's where I'm living now. I'm talking to you from our bed. And I had a temp job. I now have a permanent job, which I am pretty happy at. It's an entry-level job, but it's good. It pays me enough money. I have benefits and stuff. I'm working 40 hours a week like a normal person instead of 100 hours a week like a slave. And we got a cat.
Yeah, but you're living in sin. You sinful woman.
I mean, technically, I'm still married. Oh, that's the thing. I have been trying to contact the church.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up.
Several weeks. I've actually been trying to contact them for 2 reasons. One, I want my W-2 for last year, which I think is a legal thing. So if they don't give it to me, I will really be very annoying to them. But I want my W-2 and I want my fucking divorce papers. I'm still legally married to a Sea Org member. I would like a divorce. I'm sure they want that tie to be severed. Like, there's no way someone is sitting there going, you know what's super cool? We have our power CS married to a declared SP.
Yep.
Fucking radical.
Yep.
Like, that's the other thing. I don't know if I'm declared. I had a thought today. I had a really evil thought today, which was I should just walk into the Twin Cities org and be like, sup, can I see my declare order? Am I declared? Hey bitches, am I declared yet? And either they will say, no, we don't have any declare order on you, or they will say, yes, here it is, now leave. But what I think they will do is say, no, we have no idea, at which point I can happily just contact all of my Scientology friends and family and say, Twin Cities said I'm not declared.
Go for it. You have the freedom and power and ability now to contact anybody and everybody you ever want to. I know, it's great. It really is. It's one of the things that it took me actually way too long to realize is that, I mean, I'm talking years. It actually took me a long time to break out of the mindset that I didn't have to live my life as a non-Scientologist by any of Scientology's rules.
I know, it's crazy. I keep realizing these things.
Yep.
They really sneak up on you. And I feel like it maybe is going a little faster for me because I just hit like the hard reset button.
Yep.
You routed out properly and did the whole thing, and it was a little more gradual. Although I have to say, once you got declared, you hit it really fucking hard.
Yeah, I was pissed. I was very mad.
But you transitioned a little more slowly than I did. I just hit the hard reset. I was like, fuck this, do over. Like,
yeah. No, you're like I said, you're
new name, new hair, new me.
That's right. And you're doing just great. You're doing just fine. So so just keep going, doing what you're doing. I think now that we've got the bulk of your story out here, I think we're gonna move toward wrapping this up now.
Sounds good.
I really appreciate you taking the time. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And like I said, I wanted to give you as much breathing room as possible. You know, there have been mistakes in the past made with people who have just freshly come out and put on video, and then things get rough, and then, you know, that kind of stuff. And we didn't want any of that for you.
No.
You know,
no, for sure, no.
I wanted to make sure you had, you know, stable life sorted out, you know, to some degree. You know, you've got my book, you've got other books, you've got stuff you've been reading and educating yourself on. It's been, I'm sure, a whirlwind for you.
Totally.
You know, but
yeah, and I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still settling and figuring out life and figuring out how to live and who I am and whatever. I'm super lucky. My boyfriend's very, very supportive. Super supportive. I found out that grocery shopping gives me panic attacks, so he does the grocery shopping.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's a new one. That's a thing. Apparently, when you live your entire life not having to choose how to spend the money you don't have on food that you don't prepare for yourself, all of a sudden, all of that choice at once is a little paralyzing. It's weird, right?
I totally get it. I totally get it. Yep. Okay, cool. Well, again, thank you. You are awesome. You are a wonderful example for others. You know, and we'll see where this goes, you know, and we'll see what happens with your family and stuff too, because doors aren't closed. You know, it's not all
Right.
hopeless as far as all those people go. In fact, if there's any time that we've ever been in where there was a better chance of people coming out of that nonsense, it's now,
Totally.
you know?
And yeah, I do hope that, whatever I do want to help other people to get out of Scientology. I do want to help other people to escape oppressive situations that they may be stuck in. You know, I do want to do for others and help others in the way that I've been helped since leaving. And it takes a lot to leave. I know what it takes to leave, and it's hard.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think we're going to be keeping in touch. I am sure we will talk again in this venue in some fashion or another.
For sure.
Awesome.